Hello and welcome back to First Thoughts. I'm Simon, soon I'll be joined by Justin, and today I'm doing a catching up video podcast here where we're going to be catching up on 12 different movies we watched and didn't get to review on time. Part of that is because I didn't get to see them on time, and in one very special case, I saw the movie, walked out of the theater, and had no words. So we're going to start with a few reviews that Justin and I did together. I know it's most fun when it's both of us, but then it's going to cut to me here doing the rest of them, catching you guys up to speed on what I thought of these movies, whether you were hoping that I would talk about them or you just want to hear about more movies. These are the movies I saw to wrap up my year. I promise, even though I'm late, I did actually see all of these movies last year. It's the most new movies I've ever seen in a year. I wanted to round up specifically to 100 movies. That's why I went to such lengths. So I watched 100 new movies this year, which was a lot of fun. Some good, some not so good. But if for whatever reason you don't want to hear our reviews on any particular one of these, I'm going to have timestamps below, whether on YouTube or listening. It's going to be in the description, and so you can skip around to whatever reviews you do want to hear, because we are going to be getting into spoilers on each and every one of these reviews. So, without further ado, let's cut to me and Justin in the car talking about some movies.
We're starting with Train Dreams, which was co-written and directed by Clint Bentley. It was also co-written by Greg Quidar, somebody. And it was based on a novella by Dennis Johnson. It's starring Joel Edgerton and Felicity Jones. Felicity Jones was from Rogue One. And also, before that, she was in a little indie film called Like Crazy, which I loved her in. Hadn't seen her in a long, long time, so happy to see her again. She was in The Brutalist. I boycotted that film. Anyway, they used AI.
Nice.
All right, so this was a Netflix movie. That's why we're late to it, because we don't pay attention to Netflix. I literally don't even have Netflix until I know there's a movie I want to review on there, and I get a 1-month subscription to review said movie. This time I actually used it to watch 3. So if you don't know what this movie's about, golly, me neither. It takes place mostly in the 1910s. It follows a logger who, he meets a nice girl, settles down, and has an awful job. So what more do you need from life than that?
Yep.
This movie, of course, obviously some things must happen because it's a movie. There's got to be a plot, right? So, I would not have seen this movie if not for a friend said, "What did you think of this movie?" And I said, "Oh, I didn't see it yet." And she goes, "Oh, I know more about you than movies, ha ha ha." So I said, "All right, fuck you. I'll watch it." So I watched it. About halfway through, I texted her. I said, "Why did you do this to me?" And she said, "Why? What?" I'm like, "This movie's so depressing." And she goes, "Oh, I didn't see it." I'm like, "Fuck you!" So, what did you think, Justin? I'm so curious, because the last time we did this, we had such amazingly different opinions of a movie. So I'm curious what you thought of this movie.
I feel like for me, it's a little hard for me to just drop into, a random person's normal life experience, what they're experiencing for a little while, and then just dip out later.
Hey, we didn't drop in on a random guy's life. We met him when he was 6 or 7. That's when we met him. I took a note of that. I wrote it down in my little notes app and went, ah!
They knew what they were doing. And I hate them for it. And again, no kids are watching this, so.
Okay. Before everybody who liked this movie turns off this podcast, I really, really like this movie, actually. I'm giving it shit. I really enjoyed it. Did you like it at all, or no?
I enjoyed the movie, but I feel like I enjoyed it a lot less than you did, and maybe a lot less than most other people are.
Probably. Yeah. I was wondering if we were going to have a House of Dynamite experience again.
Yeah, it's not going to be like that, but we'll probably have like a point difference or something.
Yeah, because I like this comparably to House of Dynamite. There was actually a portion of this movie where I was thinking it might be my favorite movie of the year. I ended up not thinking that, but I did really enjoy it for a good section. I just think it probably went on another half hour than I wanted it to. If this movie, because it's like 2 hours, I think. Somewhere around there. Maybe a little bit under, an hour 45.
Yeah, it's like an hour 45, hour 40.
If this movie was half an hour shorter, which granted would be a pretty short movie at that point,
Yeah.
it would probably have been the best movie of the year to me. But I just, after a certain point, I was like, why are we still going? And then the ending did kind of make up for that by explaining why we were still going. But I still kind of was like, I could have done without some of this, personally. So, not to say it wasn't a good movie, but it stopped it from being like a quote-unquote perfect movie to me. Like, there was points during watching it where I was like, is this the first 10? And then I was like, okay, no, but is this the first 9 of the year? And I was like, no, it's not that either. But it's a damn good movie still. I will admit I did get a little bit bored and a little bit kind of confused where we were going for a little bit.
I think we have some similar opinions on the second half of this movie. But if it were just the first half, I don't know that I'd have it at a 9 or a 10 or anything like that. But it was a very, well, enjoyable is a strong word, but it's not a good movie. It's not a feel good movie.
No,
but it was a good movie.
Yes,
and the beginning was definitely the strongest part to me. Even if, I mean, the tragedy seemed like it was pretty obviously coming, not the exact way, but
yeah, and we have also kind of spoiled that if it wasn't, there is a twist. There's a turning point halfway through this movie.
Yeah, I guess I forget what's in the trailers or.
I never saw the trailer. I have no idea. But yeah, I mean, up until that point, though, it's just a perfect little life.
Yeah.
With no plot, but brilliant cinematography and great acting. And I was like, I know it's not going to say this, but god damn it, I wanted to. This is just such a happy little world. And I was literally like thinking like, man, I wish I could live during this era. Just think about no technology, no phones. It's just you, your wife, and your baby in the middle of the woods. I was like, this sounds amazing. Let's just stick with this plot for the whole time. I know it's not gonna, but damn it, please.
Listen, I would have enjoyed that.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, I should also mention William H. Macy's in this movie. I mean, there's another famous actress too. I forget her name. Carrie Condon or Carrie Condone. I don't condone her. She I think won the Oscar for Banshees of Inisherin. She was just nominated. Okay, so she's been nominated for an Oscar. She's a very good actress. She's not in this movie a lot, and I didn't think she added a lot to the movie, but she's a very good actress. But yeah, I brought up William H. Macy because I also loved him in this movie. I thought he was great. He was one of my favorite subplots of the movie. I really enjoyed his character arc. This movie was just fascinating in a lot of ways. I mean, it's very simple, like not a lot happens, but all of the little things are very fascinating to me, from their lifestyle to his work to the various implications of things. Like, you know, you see some racism that happens that is, I'm assuming, a direct reaction to the wars that are going on. And also, because, like, there's a whole thing with the Asian people all of a sudden getting, like, scooped up in the town.
Yeah, and the timeline of this, I think, was around World War One.
It starts around... Yeah, because he says it was like 1917, which is during World War One.
Yeah, I couldn't remember what exactly was going on around that time, but I think I remember a lot of incidents with like Chinese immigrants brought over for various labor projects around like, the middle of the country to the western half of the country.
Yeah.
So that seemed to line up there.
Sure. So I mean, there's a lot of interesting things happening, even if it's not like big, like. It's, you know, it's not interesting and like, wow, there's this big plot about, ooh, we're going to take over the government or there's explosion. No, it's not even that, but it's like all of the intricate moments and all of the intimate moments, because I loved their chemistry and the couple was so much fun to watch. It was just a really Oh, dude, also him. I really give credit to Joel Edgerton, because you know that little girl wasn't being told what to do.
Yeah.
Nobody told her to pick up that cup and throw into the river. So he just had to ad-lib a reaction to that, and he was awesome in the way he would interact with her. So there was some really good stuff between the family. It was a really enjoyable movie, and also the cinematography was fucking awesome. There was like subtle little philosophical points here or there. William H. Macy sings a song that he kind of like makes up in the moment, where he's like, if God was a tree, would you cut him down or would you climb his branches to see the view, or something like that. And it was some fun little moments like that where I was like, this just feels, I don't know, once again, fun isn't the right word, enjoyable isn't the right word, but something like that. It was a very fulfilling movie for me. I just, like I said at the other point, like, it just probably went on a little too long for my taste, but...
No, I can agree with that.
Yeah. It is fucking windy.
It's crazy.
It's not even Wednesday. It's for my Winnie the Pooh lovers out there. Is there anything else we should say before we get into spoilers? I feel like whenever we do recap videos, it's like the movie's been out. I feel like we can kind of just get into spoilers pretty quick here.
Yeah, I don't think there's too much we can really say here without getting into spoilers.
It's just an incredibly well-made movie.
Yeah.
Other than that, you're like, what is there to say? It's slow burn. There's a lot of shots of scenery and trees.
And I really like that in the beginning.
Yeah, it's a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
Both from, like, just looking at it, visually it's beautiful, but I think the messaging of it is very beautiful too, the philosophy of it. And it's beautiful in its misery too. I love sad things, and this movie is sad, so I thought that was beautiful too. I'm giving this movie, I'd give it an 8, honestly. I really enjoyed this movie. It really was barely prevented from being, like, a perfect movie by a couple of scenes that just lasted longer than they should have, to me.
I think I'm alright with the 7.5.
Okay, so we weren't that far apart.
Yeah, 8's a little strong, and I didn't... The back half maybe knocks it down to a 7 for me, but, like, I still enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, the back
still
half...
really enjoyed the first half.
You could
kind of wish that section was stretched over the whole movie, but I kind of get why it couldn't be, I guess.
Yeah. You could probably debate me into giving this a 7.5 because of the last half hour.
Yeah.
I'm choosing to not think about that right now. So we did both enjoy it, though. It's on Netflix, so if you got Netflix, check it out.
Yeah.
Or if you've been waiting to watch some other stuff, like we say every time with Netflix, it's like $8 to get 1 month with literally 30 seconds of ads at the top, basically. That's worth it, dude. Just rack up a list and watch that shit. So yeah, so obviously, like we said, this movie's sad.
Yep.
What other way can this movie be sad but the wife dies and the kid dies?
Yep.
They both die. And I really didn't know if I believed it when it first happened. And so that kind of made it even harder because I was like, damn, they really did. Okay.
I wasn't sure at first, but I want to say like 5-10 minutes later, I was like, okay, at this point, if they're going to come back, this would just be a happier movie. It doesn't feel like this wants to be a happier movie.
No, it was too artsy to be happy. There was no way they were going to do that at that point. But like when you first see the house on fire, I thought he was imagining it because he was envisioning, oh no, this is what happened. And I was like, yeah, but he doesn't know. And then he gets there and it's completely gone. And I'm like, shit. They fucking lemony snicket that fucking house. And then I thought for a half a second, maybe they weren't there. Maybe they got away. And then I'm like, no, they didn't. Yeah. So that was tough.
Yeah,
but I mean...
I like the scene later where they kind of showing you their perspective on it. And it's just like, oh yeah, you are too deep in the woods to wake up in the middle of a fire and get out.
Except for they live right on a river.
Yeah, I would have jumped in something.
Jump in the river. And then sure, there's still smoke. And there's danger of falling branches and all. But you crouch in the water. You get low enough that hopefully... you've got some clean air there.
Yeah,
and then you walk. Yeah, you just walk. So I
don't know how much the fire could have heated up the water in time. You would think.
No, you wouldn't be that crazy. That's too much water to. Yeah. So I don't know. That was my thought, but what do I know? Doubling back real quick. I know this isn't a spoiler or anything, but I just loved the acting. I thought Felicity Jones and Joel Edgerton were both awesome. I really thought they had great chemistry, really felt for them, really wanted them to stay together and both survive, even though I knew it wasn't going to happen.
I did like the two of them too.
Yeah, it was just every character you liked, you knew was just going to die.
You could just feel, so it's like, you can't make a whole debate of the first section, like him trying to get home to the family and trying to be able to find something. And, when you get back, we're gonna finally have the money to start on just too many death flags, too many issue flags.
Yeah.
I did think it was gonna be towards the end of the movie though, not halfway through.
Right.
I also thought it'd be more on screen. No, I didn't expect the fire, so whatever. Obviously not going to burn the kid alive in a fire on screen, but...
Yeah. I kind of more expected like a she dies in childbirth kind of situation. I wasn't expecting a fire while he was gone.
So could have seen like disease while he was away.
Yeah, why not? But like, I don't know. I also, because like he says a thing fairly early on about like he feels like the death was meant for him because of something he did, like karma or something. And so I kept waiting for like a big reveal of him having done something evil. And he never did anything evil. I guess maybe the messaging was not doing anything is just as bad as doing something, because he was complicit in like the Chinese guy getting killed because he didn't do anything to stop it. He just watched it happen.
He didn't just watch it happen. He grabbed the guy's legs, too.
I thought he was trying to stop them.
I thought he was at first, too, and then he didn't seem to be pulling, and then the guy kicked him, and it's like...
Yeah.
It's kind of... Because like at first he's like, what do you do? What do you do? And he's trying to... He's obviously going up to investigate, and he just grabs at the guy's legs. And I just expected him to like try to like fall back with him or something, and it almost looked like he was trying to figure out, should I help, should I not? And he got kicked.
Yeah. And then same thing with like the guy on the run who then the guy tracks him down and shoots him.
I mean, hey, you got that.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying too, is just like he was complicit, and I was wondering if that was a messaging there of like he didn't outright do anything as far as I could tell, because I was on the bandwagon. He was trying to save the guy, but just not very hard. And so,
I thought he was at first too, and then it's just like, wait a second, are you actually trying?
But so I forgot about this, so I'm glad I checked my notes. I think the movie, which it's ironic I forgot about this, because I think it can be summed up in the one thing that I think it was William H. Macy's character who said it, but a dead tree is just as important, in brackets, to the ecosystem as the live ones are.
Oh, yeah, I think you did say that.
And so I think that was a big portion of the message of the movie, is like, just because you don't know why you're here. Maybe it was the woman who said
I was going to say, was it the ranger? Because that might have been after the fire.
Yeah.
And she was brought in.
And she sounds like somebody who would say it. But whoever said it, it felt like it was kind of the message of the movie, where it was just like, yeah, your wife dies, but she still matters.
Yeah, it was the woman. Because she was talking about her husband. Yeah.
It's like, so your wife died, but she still matters. You're going to die, but you still matter. You feel broken like a dead tree, but you still matter, because like a hermit in the woods still has some value, is what she was saying.
It was like there's some greater purpose to it all.
Right, you're part
of this greater plan.
Which then gets doubled down on at the end when he's in the plane, and he was like, I know my purpose finally, which is that he's part of something larger. I don't know how flying in a plane teaches you that, but
it's a cool view. I guess it's a different connection to the world than he's ever experienced in his whole life. And
you realize
as the world has been changing around him this whole time, the technology is advancing incredibly rapidly during his later life.
That was another thing that I thought. I don't know that they outright said it, but I was like, that feels like a tree image, because a tree just stands there for centuries. Time goes on around it, but the tree is still there. I felt like he was a tree, because the whole world was changing around him so rapidly, and he was still standing in place.
Yeah, I mean, even after the flight, went back to the cabin and died there. Yeah, as we saw,
became part of nature, literally. So yeah, I think that whole philosophy angle of it really tied the movie together, and I was really glad, because I was like, why are we still going? And then they went that round. I went, okay, fine. I just personally would have cut out the ranger and made somebody else say it. Speed up the process a little bit, but that's just me personally.
Yeah, Ranger wasn't like, I enjoyed the movie from the very start, right? I enjoyed his family together. I really was rooting for them, even though I was pretty sure it was going to end tragically somehow. I did expect the tragedy to take a little longer, maybe for them to like start to try to form their new life after he came back that one time, but you know how that went. Also really liked afterwards, after she died, and he's living in the ashes essentially for a while.
Yeah, I love
until the Native American man comes and he gets the dogs too. I really like that part too.
Because she always wanted a dog.
Yeah,
and the dog showed up.
And I really thought maybe it's just gonna end right there, or maybe he's gonna die. And then we had the park ranger came in. Her
and
role
the
was
random
just
girl that he thought was his daughter because of his delusion.
Yeah, and I didn't really know how to feel about that one. I got it. I didn't love it.
Same.
But...
Yeah, I felt the same way. I was like, I didn't need this, but it was fine.
Like, he could have just had a hallucination instead of the entire, I'm going to take care of you and then wake up in the morning. And
that was a moment that felt like, I could see how this would work better in the book, probably.
Oh, it was based on a book?
Yeah, I said that at the top.
Oh, no.
It was a novella. So I'm like, I feel like this probably was paced better in the book, and I'm just like, don't know if we needed to shoehorn that in there, but I like the messaging of it, because it's just like, he just has been so lost for so long, where it's like, you know, his determination to just sleep in the ashes, like you said, I loved that too. I thought that was great, a great visual and a great message there. Yeah. It really hit home. And so there's a lot of philosophy to this movie that I just really, really loved. And like I said, even though I disagreed with maybe how long it went on in certain areas, even though it's not that long of a movie, that last part of him just like realizing he's a small piece of a larger thing and being okay with that, I was like, man, I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a really sad but like beautifully sad movie where I was just like, yeah, I mean, his life kind of does seem meaningless. Like he felt like it was meaningless before her, and then he felt like it was meaningless after her, and it's like it's easy to feel that way, and me watching him, I kind of felt that way.
Yeah.
But then he's right. It's like, just because you feel small and insignificant doesn't mean you aren't part, because we all are part of something larger and greater, and that's beautiful in its own way. So it's like, that's fine. It sucks maybe that everybody you know and loved and cared about died in awful ways, but everybody dies regardless. You just have to kind of find your place in all of it. You know, the irony of stuff like so many people died building that railroad that was obsolete 7 years later.
Yeah, crazy.
And it's like, that's wild. They did a really good job of aging him, by the way. It was like subtle but convincing.
Yeah, it was like in an instant he was older, and I was just like, oh yeah, he's grayer now. I don't know how much time has passed, but clearly it's been a while.
Yeah.
He's back on the train, going on the journey. Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah. I don't know how William H. Macy didn't just get splatted, though, by that branch. I thought his head was gone.
I expected some sort of deep blood loss there, just like a bigger looking injury than just the slash across his face.
Right, yeah, a little
him
cut.
Losing his mind for 4 days or so.
Yeah, which, sure, I mean, I guess that could happen. I also thought he was going to blow up when he went to fix the dynamite the first time.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Because he was just going around naming people he met, and like, and then they died. And then here was this guy, and he died. So, and he was like, and here's this guy. I was like, and he's going to die, right? And he did. But like 15 minutes later than I expected.
Yeah, no, I 100%, like, it's not working, All right, I'm going to go over this.
Don't touch it. Don't even look at it. Okay. Was what I was expecting.
Yep.
That's, 100%. And then it didn't, and I was like, huh. William H. Macy survived to sing a song. Wonderful. And yeah, he was one of my favorite things about the movie, so I'm glad he did. But I just, that shocked me. I wrote this. He waited for some, and this is a not true fact, but he said at one point that he was waiting for some great revelation about his life to be revealed to him, but none ever did. And I wrote that, and then I said, ain't that the truth?
We are all part of some bigger plan and process. And I don't know, personally for me, that doesn't seem big enough for me my whole life, but all right.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's the most truth that you can say, though, because, like, sure, we can be like, well, your life is individually important to you, and so therefore it is important. I'm like, I don't buy that. Yeah. Just because it's important because I said it is? Well, who am I? Nobody? Okay. Who's anybody else? We're all nobodies, so it doesn't matter. We can decide it matters because it matters to us, but it doesn't matter. Nothing matters. Therefore, everything matters.
Dun, dun, dun.
And once everybody's super, I guess you could say that this movie's bleak, but it's also as uplifting as it can be. Because it's like, hey, yeah, it all sucks, but like, we're all in this together. I don't know. Like, I mean, to me, that's poetic. I don't find any genuine solace in it, but it's like, it sounds nice.
Like, I know it's a movie. I know, of course, the character can have whatever reactions they want, and you know, at his like 80 years old, he can have his revelation that he had. I just don't. I couldn't ever see that. It would just have to be like I need this comfort just to get through the day tomorrow sort of thing at that point. Because by then, like, I've already gone decades since my family's been dead, and I for a little while I thought they were setting up him potentially moving on with the park ranger. That's part of why I hated her so much unjustly. Yeah. Was because I was like, get the fuck out of here, woman. And then they didn't have any sort of romantic connection. I went, thank
God.
Yeah, and I wasn't mad that they didn't, but I really thought it was going to happen. That he was just
Yeah.
like, oh, now this is my new connection to nature, and I'm finally ready to, live again and
Yeah.
rebuild the bedroom or something, but no.
And then tear it back down. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I really, because, like, they were trying to make them have chemistry, it felt like. And I'm like, but they don't. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. So I'm glad they didn't go that way.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I could see somebody saying it's not satisfying, but to me it's as satisfying as any answer is. I mean, what is the purpose of life if not to just be part of it? And that's what I was trying to say to me was not that, like, oh, we're important because we're part of a collection. That's what they say. But, like, you're part of life as a whole. And so that's why it's like we're all part of this together. And that's not what gives it value that we're all together. It's that we all have value because we are part of it. And so therefore that's something. It's not a lot, but, like, hey, just understand that we all went through something.
Yeah.
We all went through something, and it's all part of, you become the fertilizer for the tree that's going to grow after you kind of thing. And it's like, no, that doesn't mean a lot because I don't really care. But, like, I think there's something comforting in that when I'm gone, or let's talk about the character, not me, just to make it less depressing. This guy, nobody would ever remember him.
No.
Ever. Because nobody knew who he was. Except for the people who did. And they all died. Which, once again, going back to our connection with the universe, everybody we know and everybody that knows us is also going to die.
Yeah.
Not, hopefully, all in horrific ways, but they're all going to die eventually.
Right.
And so you get to take comfort in the fact that even though that does happen, and ultimately you aren't worth much, you just go back to being part of the earth, and then the next unimportant thing can happen, and it's like, so we're all just part of this natural progression. And I do find that comforting. Is it something that really means a whole lot? No, but I don't think there is any better thing you can say other than if you believe in God to go that route. But if you take God out of it, there's nothing more comforting than, hey, it doesn't matter, and that's okay.
See,
it's okay that it doesn't matter.
That's just the cold comfort for people who haven't etched their names in history, like us.
Yeah, okay, cool. Everybody's gonna forget about everybody eventually.
You say that.
There's certain people that stay memorable for longer, but I mean, give another couple thousand years, are we still gonna be talking about Julius Caesar? Maybe.
To an extent, I would think so.
Maybe.
I mean, how interesting will the history in between be, I guess?
Unfortunately, very.
Like, that's the thing. I have not looked at a history textbook since high school.
Dude, that's one
So
of my
I'm
biggest,
very curious at what
one
they're
of my
being taught
biggest pet peeves is when people, like, the meme, and I hope it's a meme and I hope people are joking and aren't actually serious about this, but they're like, when they study this current event in history class, people are going to be like, what? I'm like, nobody's going to give a shit about this in history class. Nobody's going to talk about you. No, like, maybe COVID will be a footnote of a chapter.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a textbook. It's not going to be a chapter. It's not going to be a paragraph. It will be maybe one line of, oh yeah, this happened. Because how much do we talk about the Black Plague, which was 1,000,000 times worse? We go, that happened and that sucked.
Outside of European history class, never.
Right.
But
nobody's going to give a shit. Okay, I should have, what was the 1920s?
Oh, Spanish flu?
Yeah, the Spanish flu. How much did we talk about that? And that was 100 years ago.
Yeah,
Give that 200 more years, nobody's going to fucking talk about it at all.
I was going to say COVID would get at least a paragraph, but yeah, the Spanish flu got like a
Nobody gives a shit. This shit happens every 100 years, bro.
I remember in high school.
Literally, it weirdly happens. Like every 20s, there's a major disease.
No, yeah.
Why? I don't know.
It's
But this time it was because of Bill Gates. Yeah, fuck off.
listen, we get disease and partying in the 20s. That's just how it is.
Yeah. Roaring 20s and coughing 20s.
Yeah. No one said what was doing the roaring.
It was my lungs. Help! Oh, God. You were saying something?
That's a good point. What was I saying?
doesn't fucking matter.
Oh.
It's all gonna be forgotten anyway, Justin. That's the whole point.
Back to, not what I was saying
This
before,
didn't even
but
last 5 minutes before it was forgotten.
the history conversation.
Yeah.
I remember in high school, 9/11 had like 2 paragraphs in the textbook.
Crazy.
Like U.S. history.
Certain disasters, sure, we talk about it for a while. You think we'd still be talking about the Titanic if not for the James Cameron film? Like, we barely think about that at all. And if you bring it up, people go like, oh yeah, Leo was great in that. People aren't actually concerned about the fucking tragedy.
He could have gotten on that board.
Yeah, he could have fucking fit. Fuck out of here with your fat ass. Yeah, no, people are so full of themselves. And this is a great antidote to that, to going like, you don't matter. But that's okay. And you know what? That's exactly the kind of philosophy I like. I love that shit. You don't matter. Nobody does. But hey, the fact that nobody matters is kind of cool. Imagine if you had a destiny. If you were like a chosen one and every decision you made mattered. Kill me now. Kill me now. So, yeah. This review went off the rails. But all that to say, I like it. I like it.
I also enjoyed it. Although mostly the first half.
Yeah, but the ending did make it up to me a little bit.
It was a nice touch.
We are moving on to Jay Kelly, which was written and directed by Noah Baumbach, and it's starring George Clooney, Adam Sandler, Laura Dern, and some other people, but that's the main casting you worry about. So, if you don't know what the movie's about, it follows George Clooney is, I was going to say midlife crisis, but it's not. It's late in life crisis.
Yeah.
He's an actor who has spent most of his career being very successful, but he's kind of less successful now and very much less successful with his children. And he starts to realize that maybe he made some mistakes along the way. So this movie becomes an introspective piece from there. Adam Sandler, by the way, plays his like manager kind of guy.
Yeah.
It's not technically a manager because he refers to somebody else as a manager. I don't know his exact role, but
he is like his assistant manager, personal slave.
Assistant guy.
Essentially.
Right. The movie also kind of becomes like a travel movie in a way because they end up going to Europe and doing stuff. But anyway, if you don't know who Noah Baumbach is, he's an indie filmmaker in the sense that he makes low-budget movies typically, but he's very famous, he's very popular, he's been around, he made Marriage Story, he's co-written stuff, he works with Greta Gerwig a lot, by the way, who's a role in this movie, he plays, Greta Gerwig plays Adam Sandler's wife, which, once again, you gotta give it to whoever is casting Adam Sandler's wives in movies. They're just like, how do we pair the hottest woman in this movie with the ugliest man?
We gotta give people their fantasies in the world. So if you were just Adam Sandler, you could have her too.
Yeah. But anyway, I am a fan of Noah Baumbach loosely. I haven't seen a lot of his stuff. I saw Marriage Story and I loved it. He co-wrote Barbie, for what it's worth. That was great. He also wrote Madagascar 3.
Solid.
So, that's great.
Range.
I haven't seen a lot of George Clooney movies, honestly. I've seen the Ocean's movies.
Yep.
I saw Batman and Robin.
Unfortunately.
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is a great movie. The Men Who Stare at Goats. So maybe I've seen more George Clooney than I thought. I just don't think about George Clooney a lot, I'll be honest.
No. Surprisingly, for definitely
How
not seen as much.
notable he is?
Yeah, but I've
Yeah.
definitely enjoyed a number of Clooney movies.
Right.
Surprisingly, Clooney in a movie isn't a guaranteed, oh, I need to go see this, like it is for like Leo or a few other
Christian
actors.
Bale.
Yeah.
I will see whatever he's in, no matter how dumb it looks. And that's got me into trouble a couple of times. But yeah, I agree. George Clooney, for whatever reason, I don't think about him that way, but I always like him whenever I see him. Yes, always Batman and Robin. Great performance. And then Adam Sandler is certainly not an actor I will go out of my way for. I just trashed him in my Marty Supreme review because I was saying how much better Timothy Chalamet was. But then I also remembered...
He was in that?
No, he was in Uncut Gems. I was
okay.
comparing
Yeah,
the two.
right.
But I was realizing that actually I have liked him in a few movies, serious role movies, because I actually liked a movie nobody liked last year called Spaceman. And I thought Adam Sandler was good in that for the most part. So I think he can do well in some roles. Are you Googling Spaceman right now?
No, I'm Googling Sandler and trying to figure out if there's anything recently. Because with him, I liked a lot of his early movies, right?
Sure.
And then, I don't remember where it started, but essentially, like I said, you put DiCaprio in a movie, I'm pretty much guaranteed to at least check it out. I guess that Netflix one I missed.
Don't Look Up?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was worth missing.
Yeah, I don't know how I missed that one. Because I remember when it was coming out that me and my friends wanted to see it, and for some reason, we
Just
didn't.
didn't happen.
Yeah, but like he's the kind of person I'm pretty guaranteed to go see a movie with him. Adam Sandler is the exact opposite to me.
Yes, literally.
I will dismiss a movie. If George Clooney wasn't in this movie and in the poster and you were saying you wanted to watch it, there would be a 0% chance of me having any interest in this. I was curious because Adam Sandler and George Clooney together.
Like, what a weird combo.
Yeah,
right?
I didn't expect that at all.
And then it wasn't weird at all.
No,
it was
worked.
a very normal movie. So what? It's funny because so what Noah Baumbach is known for, I started to say, along with being an indie filmmaker, is he's known for very realistic dialogue, supposedly, which I wholeheartedly disagree with most of the time. I feel like his dialogue sounds very scripted, especially when doing exposition. And there's a couple of scenes, specifically between Adam Sandler and Laura Dern talking, where I was just like, man, this is scripted as hell. But Noah Baumbach loves his nice little depressing movies, his introspective movies. Marriage Story was great. And so I had hope that this movie would be good because I just thought the premise sounded good. An old actor looking back on his life, with regret. That's just right up my alley. So sure enough, I watched it, and it was not a perfect movie. Had a lot of flaws, and without saying any spoilers yet, that ending is so good that it made up for every other issue for me, and I actually really enjoyed this movie. Justin.
I saw it a little disjointed, a little bit.
But I saw you see it a little disjointed.
Yeah, it's probably going to end up with a very similar score to Train Dreams for me.
Okay.
But there was a good portion of it that I honestly thought I was enjoying it more than Train Dream.
Okay, yeah. I mean, there's certainly, I think it's a worse made film, but it's more enjoyable in certain areas. So I don't, it's kind of like when we were talking about, Is This Thing On? Where I'm like, this isn't the best made movie of the year, but it's one of the most enjoyable movies of the year. And I feel that way about Jay Kelly too, where there were certain parts that I was wondering what was the point. And honestly, when I got to the end, this is a very common way to write movies. It's how I write movies, is a lot of times the first thing you come up with is how the movie's going to end. And then you work backwards from there on how to get to that ending.
Makes sense.
And I feel like that must be how this movie was written, because a lot of times during the movie I was just like, okay, sure, this is fine, or this is good even, but whatever. And then the ending hit, and it was just like, that Danny DeVito meme where he goes, whoa, I get it. That was me sitting there watching the movie. I probably would have given it like a soft 6 just because I was like, it kind of felt disjointed, didn't really get the point of it. Yeah. And then the ending of the movie jumped it up to like a hard 7.5. Like, I really enjoyed it because the ending just made everything else in retrospect like click into place, in moments that I didn't care for before now were better. And I really, really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed the ending of the movie. I think I was just more interested in seeing a look at his life.
Yeah.
Now, I will say a lot of the, I guess, Adam Sandler side plot.
Didn't care for it nearly as much.
Pretty obvious the whole way through, too.
To compare it to Is This Thing On? Again, what we had said about that, or at least I said it, was like, all the characters were so interesting that I wanted to hear everybody's story.
Yeah.
It's kind of the opposite in this, where we did talk about other people's stories, and I really just didn't care.
Yeah.
Because George Clooney's story is great, and I loved it.
I agree.
And anytime we deviated, I was like, I don't care, I'm sorry.
When we deviated to Adam Sandler's, I was like, can we just get to the conflict here already?
Yeah.
Like the confrontation already? Because I know it has to happen. I get what his issue is very... You needed one scene to establish that.
Right. And they've got that scene between Adam Sandler and Laura Dern talking about that shit, and I'm like, does this add anything for me? No. Why are we doing this? But George Clooney's story is so compelling.
Yeah.
I loved it from start to finish, especially the ending. And the ending, like I said, made everything that happened before it better. Like, there's so many one-off lines, it sounds like, that then all of a sudden make sense when you watch the ending and you're like, oh shit, that was really cool. And then also, by the way, this is another good non-spoiler thing to talk about. There's a lot of flashbacks in this movie because he's reflecting on life. And every time they do it in such a wonderful way that's not just a flashback. It's him walking into the past to see something happen or witness it, or like when he's talking, dude, he has a phone conversation and all of a sudden he and the person that are on the phone are walking next to each other. I was like, that's so cool.
It was all flashbacks, and then it was a real-time phone call conversation. That threw me for a loop a little bit, and then it ended and I realized what was happening. I was like, oh yeah, that was real nice. And
I love that. It was so much
all of
fun.
them were really great. It was a nice way to do it.
Great, just a great director. I think Noah Baumbach is a good writer. I think he's a great director. I like his directing a lot more than I like his writing. I think he comes up with very good premises. I don't know if he always knows how to flesh them out entirely, but the premise is awesome, and the directing is awesome. The acting, for the most part, is awesome. Like I said, and maybe it's not the acting or the actor's fault, but there is some exposition dumping that is just hard to get through. It's like they're chewing the dialogue, and it's like, stop it, you know? But I don't know. I thought George Clooney, I was going to say before I started going through his catalog that it might be my favorite performance by him. I don't know. It's tough. Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou was fucking awesome. But this is one of George Clooney's best performances of his career to me. And it's one of Adam Sandler's better ones, too, in my mind. As far as serious acting.
Serious acting? Yeah, I agree with that.
Better than Uncut Gems.
Clooney, I'd have to
watch more.
I guess I have to look back, because I have seen Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Love
but we are talking like 10 to 15 years ago.
Oh, you gotta rewatch it. So good.
Yeah. And outside of that, I mean, there's Oceans. And what else have I seen? I'd have to start looking at Clooney movies to figure out.
Have you not seen The Men Who Stare at Goats?
Maybe once, but I don't know if I did.
Great movie.
I remember that movie a lot. I remember wanting to see it.
Yeah.
I think it was gonna get it back when I had Netflix, the disc era, but
damn, we're in a tight spot. So I enjoyed this movie. I think the execution wasn't always perfect, but it was good enough that the substance of this movie, great movie, shone through and made me love it. Because, like I said, the acting is great, but the premise is what I really cared about. Like, you could have put any actor, no offense to George Clooney because he was awesome, you could have put, like, any actor in this role. You could have put Nicolas Cage in this role, and I still would have been crying by the end of it because it's just that well written to me. So, I really enjoyed this movie. Like I said somewhat earlier, I spoiled this. I'm giving it, I think, a 7.5. I enjoyed it a lot.
I think it was 7.
Yeah.
And I also enjoyed it quite a bit.
All right, so we're going to get into spoilers for a little bit here. I just want to get to the ending, and then we can work back from there, because that's what Noah Baumbach did anyway, I think. But so throughout this movie, like I said, he's dealing with the concept of regrets. We see that takes him to chasing his daughter across Europe, which I agree with the one person who's like, I would have loved it if my dad chased me across Europe.
Yeah.
She didn't seem to care at all, but I get it. She's 18, remember?
It's a little late.
No, I don't remember being 18. Oh. And I agree, it is a little bit late. It's like too little too late. And of course it's easy for you to do that. You've got plenty of money. Like, when you've got that much money and power, it kind of means less to do something it's not that personal. It's just throw money at the problem kind of thing. But
especially when you do it shadily too. It's like, oh, it's really cool that you found us on this train. How'd you do that exactly?
Yeah, especially when he had already said to her, why don't I come with you? And she said no.
Yeah.
And then you come with her anyway.
Yeah. Just spontaneous.
Yeah. I just happened to be walking through the train, spying on you. Yeah. Anyway, that leads them to Europe. And then because they're in Europe, they're like, oh, well, they were going to give you this award over in Italy. So why don't we just do that? I'm like, well, we're giving the award to this guy. Well, make 2 awards. Okay, so then they just pull all these strings. So then they're having this whole ceremony centered around George Clooney. I forget the word they use, but it's like a retrospective. They're looking back on his career and just honoring him. Then he tries to convince everybody he ever has known and loved, maybe even doesn't love anymore, but anybody that matters to him at all, both of his daughters, his his father, just anybody, random people he meets on the train. He's trying to get anybody he can to come to this thing, because the whole reason he wants to do it is because he's realized he prioritized his career over his family. And if he chose to do that, that must mean his career is really important, right? Otherwise, it was a bad decision. Yeah. So he wants to prove to himself that it was the right decision, so he needs his career to have mattered. So he's trying to show everybody, see, my career mattered. And I love that because he's got that phone conversation with his daughter, the one that's not in Europe. And he says to her, well, they're honoring me at this festival thing. And she goes, what, so you think me seeing how great your career is going to make me think, like, you care all of a sudden? Yeah. She's like, well, it's got to mean something. And she goes, does it? Oh, what a good moment. Yeah. I was just like, oh, that was devastating, because he's like, shit, she's right. Because it doesn't mean anything. He's just been lying to himself, pretending it means something, because if it doesn't, he fucked up. And he doesn't want to have fucked up his entire life.
And what was it? When he first started talking to her, it's like, oh, they're honoring, the last 35 years of my career. She's 34. Like, I'm 34.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That was so fucking good. And then, so he ends up, the only person that comes to him, the only person that comes to the ceremony, other than a couple of the random people he met on the train.
Yeah.
The only person that actually agrees to come, because both of his daughters say no. 90% of his staff leaves.
Yeah, they all seem to quit during this last tour. Yeah. Which is a wild time to quit, but all right.
The only person that actually comes is Adam Sandler. And so it's a great little moment, because they've been fighting the whole time.
Yeah.
The whole time, disagreeing about everything. He keeps going, why'd you get me cheesecake? I don't like cheesecake. Yes, you do. No, I don't. You don't know me. And then he finally eats the cheesecake and realizes, I do like this. Showing that Adam Sandler knows him better than he knows himself.
Yeah.
That was a great fucking moment, too. Thought it was a weird running joke? Nope. It was philosophy waiting to punch me in the balls. Loved that. And then finally they're watching this retrospect, and he has another one of those moments where he kind of fades out of reality. And so instead of watching his career highlights, which was a great thing, they actually just used real George Clooney highlights. I thought that was awesome.
That was interesting.
Instead, his two daughters trying to put on this two-man show for him in the backyard while he's like trying to leave the whole time. And he's sitting there watching, going like, man, this was the highlight. And I wish I could have seen more of this. Not the career. I needed to see more of this.
Yeah, it was interesting because, like, in his little flashback, he's going to leave multiple times. Every single time they're saying, hey, Dad, you're missing it. Turn around, keep watching. And then in the end, he does put the bag down and turns around and seems like he might have continued watching. Except at that point, I started thinking, oh, he's just making this up now.
Yeah.
I bet he didn't turn around.
Yeah, and even if he did, he still left eventually.
Yeah.
And he just didn't spend enough time with them. And so finally, the film ends. Everybody's applauding. And
people got some tears in their eyes, too.
And he turns to the camera, breaks the fourth wall, and goes, can I do another one? I want another one. Which is a callback to every time he wrapped any movie.
Yeah.
And they were filming the last scene. He was afraid of letting the movie end, and he wanted to do one more take. And his reasoning, because they had the director come up and ask him, do you think you can do it better? And he said, I hope so. I think I could do it different, though. And so what he's saying is, I want to redo my life different because I know how badly I messed up, and I just want one more chance.
Oh, that was crazy.
And it just smash cuts to credits. And I literally paused it when, like, whoa, rewound, watched that scene again, paused it again, and just stared at the ceiling for like 15 minutes when I watched it. I was like, because the movie, like I was saying, the movie's good up until that point. 6.5. I'm having a good time. There's some fun moments here. There's some introspective moments there. Cool shots here and there. Oh, they're walking next to each other. Whatever. Cool stuff. That scene fucking punched me in the guts, took my lunch money, and then threw me out the window. Holy shit. Like, I'm not going to say it's the best movie of the year. It's not. I think that scene was the best scene of the year. It's at least my favorite scene of the year. Holy shit. It fucked me up, man.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I want to cry thinking about it right now. That's why it's like, and I get the idea behind, like, you hear so many people say, like, do you have any regrets? And, like, no. And I get why. Because to live with regrets is a really painful thing to do.
Yeah.
And also, you are a product of your decisions, so it's like, you learn. Every time you mess up, hopefully, you're learning and growing, so making mistakes is a good thing. But, like, I don't know how you can live your life and not have regrets. I regret so much all the time. And imagine doing that, where it's like I was saying about him earlier, where he needs his career to have mattered. Because if his career means nothing,
yeah,
then his life means nothing, because his career became his life. And everything else was lost in the process. Everything.
And it's crazy, because throughout the movie, I think he gets the glimpses that his career matters. It's just doesn't matter more.
It doesn't matter enough. Yeah.
Having his family.
Yeah.
There's so many people that love him, that basically worship the ground he walks on. Even at the end, when they're showing all his flashbacks, there are people with basic tears in their eyes thinking about his career. They're all staring longingly, looking at all these memories he's created for them, all these moments that they've had from his life, and he just wants his kids. It's just...
Yeah.
Ugh.
I think that's why the only person there with him was Adam Sandler, because, as they put it, they did it together.
Yeah.
And so it's like, this is your life too. You also sacrificed everything for this. So I hope it was worth it to you too. Because we did this. We both made this decision, man. Yeah. We're in this together. No fixing this shit. You get one take. Fuck, man. Oh, I love a good depressing movie, man. That shit made my day. Because I've been doing kind of like a marathon, watching a bunch of movies, getting ready for the end of the year. My goal is actually to finish up watching 100 movies this year. Ooh. I need to watch 5 more, including this one after this. So I'm good.
Yeah.
Got one more marathon after this, and we're good. After this movie, I was like, I can't watch anything else for a little bit, man. That fucked me up. Like, and the movie is flawed. I do want to say that and make sure it's heard. A lot of the dialogue is garbage. I thought the exposition, like I said, Laura Dern and Adam Sandler, like, hey, remember when I left you while we were on the Eiffel Tower? Yeah, we were having dinner. Yeah. And then I had to leave. One of us had to. We got the call. I was just like, Jesus Christ, this dialogue sucks. This is not how people talk. There's some weird kind of stuff with pacing where it's like, I want a little bit more of this, a little bit less of that. Stuff like that where I'm just like, it's not a perfect movie. Like I said, I would have given it a 6-ish before the end scene. But, like, I don't know. I think the messaging of this movie and man, they absolutely just nail that scene too, which really helps. It makes every flaw not matter to me, almost. Where, like, I almost want to say this is my favorite movie of the year. It's not, but it got a lot closer than it had any right to be. Just because, sure, there's some flaws, but the thing that they needed to nail, they nailed. That's all that really matters. Moving on, we're giving our first thoughts on Wake Up Dead Man, which, of course, was written and directed by Rian Johnson. It's starring Daniel Craig, Josh O'Connor, Glenn Close, Josh Brolin, Mila Kunis, Jeremy Renner, Kerry Washington, Andrew Scott, Kaylee Spaney, Daryl McCormick, Thomas Andrews, and Jeffrey Wright.
Yes.
If you haven't seen the trailers, you don't know what it's about. This is the third Knives Out mystery movie, although it's not in the title, and also based on how this was written, it almost feels like they wanted it to be a secret that this was a Knives Out movie, because Blanc doesn't show up until half an hour into this movie-ish.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if, like, Netflix meddled and was like, no, you have to let them know this is a Knives Out movie. But anyway, so yeah, Daniel Craig, for the third time, is playing this detective character who is like a Sherlock Holmes type, except for with a southern drawl.
But none of those other accents that we were promised, you bastards.
Yeah, I never gave up on that idea very quick.
Never forgive, never forget.
So, I have been very vocal in not liking this franchise so far. What is your opinion on this franchise?
I enjoyed the first one quite a bit.
Okay.
That's
the only one I've reviewed. I didn't review the second one.
The second one, I enjoyed it a little bit more. after finding out that the movie was very intentional. Because before that, I was like, wow, this is really badly made. I really caught that immediately. Wow. It's just like...
Well, the whole franchise is built on, you watch the trailer and you know who did it, which pisses me off, but...
Yeah, but even if I know who did it, you can still tell an alright mystery. I just didn't think the second one was that particularly.
Yeah. Also, just future reference, Mr. Johnson, maybe pick somebody who isn't white and male. It may make it a little bit more hard to figure out moving forward. Now, they did deviate a little bit, but I need a different microphone because that's about to die. It was my favorite of the three. It got closest to me liking it. It didn't piss me off.
Yeah.
It had some interesting ideas. Nothing is ever surprising in these movies. Not a damn thing. It's really frustrating because, like, this franchise seems built up to be so good. Like, I should love these because I love mysteries.
Right.
And I love the fact that everyone has a completely star-studded cast because, you know, so many times in mysteries it's like, who's the famous person?
Yeah, the guest star of the week. And
They don't do that in this because everybody's famous, except for a couple people.
Right.
Yet they still telecast who the bad guy is every time.
Yeah, it doesn't make for the greatest of mysteries.
No.
But I still enjoyed the first one. I still enjoyed this third one. And the second one happened.
I'm kind of confused why Blanc is not the main character of this movie.
No,
I don't
not
care
this
what
one.
anybody says. Why? Why is he not the main character of this movie? Imagine if the priest wasn't the main character. You could have really thrown a curveball of maybe he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
He would have been such a fun plot twist.
Yeah.
And they even do a semi thing with him thinking, we're going to get you. I'm like, no, he's the main character.
See, I don't even mind how long it took Blanc to get introduced into the story. He just didn't take it over as much as I felt he probably should have.
Needed to be the main character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you like imagine making a Sherlock Holmes movie and he's just not the main character. That's insane.
Yeah, it's not the greatest choice. That's what I'm trying to figure, because I need to rewatch the first one. I can't decide whether I like this one or that one more.
I thought this one was cleverer than the first one.
From what I remember, I kind of agree there.
Because the first one pissed me off because it was dumb.
I
And
knew who it was. I don't think I remembered if I knew immediately how it was done.
I picked up on most of it, except for the one thing I didn't pick up on was because they broke their own rules. They said that if you get injected with this thing, you die in this amount of time.
Right.
And there wasn't enough time for the things to happen that happened.
Yeah.
I remember. And I was like, so you broke your own rules. That's stupid then. This one, if it broke any rules, I didn't catch it. And I thought there was more layers to this one, too.
Definitely more layers.
Which was interesting because nothing surprised me, but I would say I only predicted about 80% of it. So there was a 20% where I'm like, oh, that makes sense. I didn't think about that, but that makes sense.
I'd say I didn't see it coming until the various sections started. You know, with the first portion of this movie, I had a pretty solid guess at that pretty quickly. That was kind of...
Yeah.
But then I didn't see, the next section coming. But when that started, you could start to figure out how that was going to end up happening pretty quickly, and then so forth and so forth.
There was certain things that I knew it happened, but my reasoning, my motivation was wrong. And so then they'd reveal the actual motivation. I was like, oh, okay. So... to me, so far, the most clever of the three, but still just painfully predictable. And that's so annoying, because it's like everything's there for the taking. Just make something a little less predictable.
Yeah.
Rian Johnson, though, I loved the directing. I thought there was some really, really, really good directing. So I think I learned he's a great director, just a bad writer. Granted, it was heavy-handed as hell. But there was conversations in the church. And every time there was a conversation in the church, based on what was being said, the lighting would change dramatically. So, they're talking about hope and God, and there's light flowing in from the windows, and it's very warm and colorful. And then they start talking about practicality and science and reason and logic. And then I guess a cloud would go over, and it would just get very dark and cold in the room. I'm like, okay, that's a little cheesy, but I do appreciate it. I'm a sucker for shit like that. So I did enjoy that, but it was silly, but it was fun. And so there's stuff like that in this movie where I was like, I'm able to enjoy that, but I just wish there was better writing attached to these mysteries, because everything about it should be fun, should work, and then they just fail on the actually making it clever part. Oh, dude, what was with There was 2 references to Andrew Lloyd Webber, or more. I think 2 I caught. 2 references to Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals. They reference Cats and The Phantom of the Opera. Why?
Well, it's Ryan Johnson's trying to let you know that the 4th one is going to involve a murder mystery musical.
Great. Awesome. Can't wait. I was just like, they turn on the radio and it's a song from the Cats musical, and then later Blanc just randomly starts playing the theme from Phantom, and it's like, why are we doing this? I don't know why we're doing this. I don't know. Is there anything we can say before getting into spoilers? It's a mystery movie. I feel like you just need to talk about the plot.
Yeah, we've basically spoken about anything I can think of.
It's frustrating because it should be good, but it's not.
Yeah.
5 stars. Justin?
6.
Why?
I still enjoyed it more than you.
Okay.
I still enjoyed some of the mystery. It is not nearly as good as it could be, and certainly not as
Good as it thinks
clever.
it is.
Yeah. But
I feel like, because I hear so many people talk about this franchise like they're so clever. I'm like, is everybody just dumb? Because these movies tell you everything before it happens.
yeah, there's like elements of them that are kind of smart, and then the rest is very easy to figure out, and the second one was just very intentionally easy and whatever.
So you did bring that up. Why was there a reason he gave for why it was intentionally easy to figure
Just
out?
glass onion is the concept of that.
Yeah, but the same thing that he does in everything.
Yeah.
It's always the most obvious reason.
Yeah.
And you pretend it's not, but it is.
He's just like, yeah, I said it was gonna be. I titled it that. Yeah. Of course you saw the switch. You were meant to. It's like, okay, cool. Doesn't make it feel better.
Yeah, the first Knives Out, it's Chris Evans. Sorry, spoilers. And it's like, literally, you can pick that up from the trailer because they make everybody look suspicious except him. So you go, so it's him. And then second one is called is called Glass Onion. So you go, okay, so it's an obvious answer. So it's the dickhead. Oh, it's the dickhead. And then this one, same thing. The title gives away part of it, and then the rest of it is just telecast. It's telecast. Plus, like I said, they're always white. You just automatically rule out anybody that doesn't fit the mold.
Yeah. This is the mold could be
It could be expanded.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. The bad guy doesn't always have to be a white dude. I'm just saying.
Listen, maybe you get a mixed person in there. I don't know. Is that a step over?
Have they also all been Republican? I think they have been all white Republican men.
If they weren't explicitly Republican, they were definitely Republican
coded.
Like they were.
Yeah. So we know you've got a type, Ryan. Mix it up.
There's villains in the world.
Mix it up a little bit. Make it a little hard to figure out. Granted, there are multiple white men Republicans in this, so it makes it a little tricky. but come the fuck on.
That's the key. Just make all your characters white male Republicans. Then we'll never see it coming.
And they're all famous. And then I'll be like, okay, I don't know who it is based on the trailer. Unless you're just panning across a group of people and you're stopping on each one, and then you don't stop on one guy, then I'm going to know he's the bad guy. Ryan. I couldn't believe he did that. I rewound to watch it again. I'm like, the one guy you didn't stop on. Come on. So we're going to get into spoilers now. If you don't want anything spoiled, click away, go watch, come back, and we can talk about it then. Yay. So, let me first admit what I got wrong. Because that's fun. So, I thought that there was going to be a fake out with Josh Brolin not actually being dead. And he was partially behind it. Because I thought, because they did the tranquilizer thing, and he didn't actually really die, and then they stabbed him, that confused the fuck out of me, because it was like, what? I thought it was his scheme to resurrect himself.
Same.
And, become, because he kept referring to himself, and they kept saying, he's never talking about Jesus, he's always talking about himself, and he just gave a big talk about resurrection. So, so this was his plan. And I still kind of feel like it was his plan somehow and then went awry. But yeah, that was kind of a red herring I fell for, I guess. If that was a red herring, I don't know. And then I knew Glenn Close was going to be involved. I thought the reasoning was different, though. I thought she was involved in helping him because I thought she was part of the cause.
Right.
But it was the opposite. She wanted him dead.
Yeah.
So those were the two things I got wrong.
And hey, that's breaking the mold. Well, one of the molds.
No, because she has a reason to do it, and she's not really that bad. She did it because the white men were bad. So she was redeeming herself by getting rid of the bad white men, which there was 2 of. And they were both Republican.
And that's why she had to die for getting rid of them.
Yeah. So this is the first one that I didn't know who the bad guy was from the trailer, because I thought Josh Brolin was the bad guy based on the trailer.
Yeah.
So it didn't.
Improvements.
We're taking baby steps, baby. Baby steps.
Just imagine what Knives Out 20 is going to be like.
But then, yeah, they go to the funeral. And they're just panning across the people. And they're like, here's Kerry Washington. Here's Cy. Here's this guy. And here's, oh, don't look at Jeremy Renner. I'm like, wait. You can't just not stop on him.
No.
I know he's bad now. Also, even just the way he would say, because like, so I forget the exact line, but so right when Brolin collapses in the closet,
Yeah.
Priest runs over and he goes like, oh no, and then Jeremy Renner comes over and just goes like, oh no, what happened? And I'm like, okay, so you're behind this, you did it. And it's just like, can we just add subtlety into this mystery at all, please? Just an ounce. Please, sir. I'd like some subtlety. I really thought, because they kept focusing on his ring, and that ended up being just a way to identify him.
Yeah.
But his ring was very unique. It was like a nut. And so I thought that was going to end up being a clue to something, and it wasn't.
See, if
it was just a weird ring.
If this was Scooby-Doo, it would have been like the key to unlock
Yeah.
the mausoleum or some shit.
I thought it was going to be part of like the Satan head thing.
Yeah,
knife.
yeah.
No, it was just there. Okay. I still don't entirely understand, by the way. Their plan was to dissolve the body in acid
Right.
so that he would just disappear without a trace.
Makes sense.
So they drag him down to the basement, and then they don't put him in the tub because they're waiting for the tub to fill, I guess, or something. They start having a conversation, and she poisons him because he was going to poison her, so she poisons him. Goose poison. And and then she puts him in the tub and also puts in Josh Brolin's arms. Why'd you do that?
Well, you know, just
Why'd you do that?
piece by piece.
But then she didn't put him in the rest of the way.
Well, it was a craft tell. Yeah, I guess.
I was waiting for an explanation for that, and I never got one.
Well, if she put them all the way in, maybe they could have gotten away with it. But, you know.
Yeah, we gotta leave clues. Just leave people only partially melted for some reason.
Listen. I like LeBlanc, but he ain't Sherlock.
No, he's kind of stupid sometimes.
Maybe if he changed up his accent every once in a while, he'd get smarter.
Yeah. What the fuck? I want a Jersey accent, LeBlanc.
Damn straight.
Also, another thing that I thought was gonna matter more, and I guess maybe it was a clue that they just never addressed. They're not letting people to the crypt, but Glenn Close is there worshiping.
Mm-hmm.
Because she goes, oh, he's risen. And then they go, so-and-so died. And she goes, what? And she immediately turns and runs to the body, even though nobody told her where it was. I'm like, clue. She's involved. She knew the plan. And then they never bring that up. And I'm like, is that actually a clue, or was that just bad filmmaking? I can't tell. Because she had no reason to know they were there. Even if she was involved in the plan, why would she know where they were specifically? Did they tell her, we're going to specifically hide in this bush and change outfits here?
Of course.
And then if they die, that's where they'll be.
You know, that was the plan Bush right there.
The plan Bush?
Yeah.
9/11?
Yeah, exactly. See? It's all connected. Always has been.
Oh my god. I also will say, so I knew that the diamond, the Pink Panther, I knew the Pink Panther was in the crypt.
Of course.
I didn't know he ate it, though.
Yeah, no.
That was a weird choice.
He died by swallowing it.
Why the fuck did he do that? You're an idiot.
Listen. Some people don't trust banks, and they hide their money in their mattresses. He doesn't trust anybody, so he hides it in himself.
Yeah. It reminds me of the old guy in the first one of just like, I'm just gonna, slit my throat so people think I was murdered. Won't that be fun? Like, why do people do dumb shit in these movies? Why are we doing this?
Yeah, at least that old guy had a plan there. This guy was just like,
It was a dumb plan.
I'm gonna store this diamond in my stomach.
And I'm joking. Help!
Whenever I need it, I'm gonna pass it, but you know.
Yeah, whatever happened to putting it in a box?
And it's not easily accessible. If it's on,
Why does it need to be
time,
easily accessible? If it's in your stomach, it's not easily accessible.
well, you can just
guess what?
it.
It fucking hoits. Yeah, I don't know. These movies are painfully predictable, and I just want them to be good, and they're just not.
Yeah, I would. A really good mystery for me should be
peak.
a easy slam dunk. Like,
Yeah, dude.
Me giving it a stupid 9 out of 10 for something, just because
I'm fiending for a good mystery.
Just off pure enjoyments, not even because it was
Yeah.
a well-made movie.
Yeah, I just want something to be like, oh, that was clever.
Yeah.
I didn't see that coming, and it makes sense. Holy shit. I watch it a second time, and it's still good. Wow. 10 out of 10.
Especially when you watch those things a second time, and then you start to see how they were hinting at it the entire time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Like The Illusionist, one of the best twist endings I've ever seen in a movie ever.
I don't think I know about it, so if you haven't said it yet, maybe I'll go check it out later.
I haven't watched the first one in a long time. Lakeith Stanfield was also a police officer in that. Were they not directly working together?
I thought they were.
Why has he not been in any of the other ones? I miss him.
See, now he's a private detective, but I don't...
Wasn't he the whole time?
Yeah, but...
So maybe it was just police called him, and that was the Mila Kunis of this one.
Yeah, I guess so,
But Mila Kunis is a major downgrade over Lakeith Stanfield, no offense, Mila. And there was no cop in the second one, was there? Was there? No, because they just took him to the private island. Right? It's an island, right?
It was...
Or is it just a beach?
No,
I
I'm
don't
pretty
remember.
sure it was a private island. Private island with a mansion, big compound sort of thing.
You know, as much as I don't like Blanc, I felt like he had some aura, as the kids would say, in the first one. There was some intrigue and mysticism to him in the first one when Lakeith Stanfield is interviewing the guys and he's in the back just pressing the piano key. That's fucking cool. Mm-mm. He doesn't do shit like that anymore. He just goes well, I do declare. The whole time well, this is weird. And it's what are you doing, dude? You're so lame. Just be cool.
So there you have it. That's what we thought on Train Dreams, Jay Kelly, and Wake Up Dead Man. I'm now going to get into some reviews that I just saw by myself. I'm going in alphabetical order from now on, so it's not an order of how much I liked it or wanted to talk about it or anything. I just didn't have any real reason to put them in any other order, so I put them in alphabetical order. So first up is The Carpenter's Son. Now, if you haven't heard of The Carpenter's Son, it is a horror take on the Jesus story. So it's from the perspective of Joseph, who was Jesus's adoptive father, I guess, stepfather, if you will, and he's played by Nicolas Cage. Mother Mary is played by FKA Twigs. So interesting casting choices already, and then like I said, so it's a horror take on the story. So immediately this movie, for obvious reasons, was boycotted by a lot of people. The director was Egyptian. He wasn't allowed to film it in Egypt. He wasn't allowed to film it in Israel, so they ended up filming it in Greece because I guess that was the closest country that would let them do it. And so it's a interesting movie. Obviously, like I said, controversial. As somebody with a degree in theology, for those of you who didn't know that, it's not really biblically accurate in any way, or historically accurate for that matter. They supposedly based a lot of the story off of the Gospel of Thomas, which, for anybody who knows anything about the Bible, that is not a real gospel. That was written hundreds of years after the fact, and nobody really believes that it's true at all because it just doesn't add up biblically. Even if you're a Christian, you don't believe in it. So there's a very small group of people who do, though, but other than that, most people completely disregard it. But anyway, outside of that, there's just historical inaccuracies. At one point, he being Jesus, goes to this area where they're crucifying people, and it seems to be Jews crucifying other Jews, which is not a thing, obviously. That was the Romans that crucified people. That wasn't a Jewish practice. But anyway, it's just not really paying attention to any sort of accuracy to anything. It's just more about telling an interesting story. I will say there's some interesting things that they chose to be really accurate about. They pronounce certain names actually correctly, which is interesting. It's Satan, not Satan, and it's Yeshua, not Jesus. So that's cool. If you're a nerd about that kind of stuff, or you just want things to be accurate, that's cool. But in the grand scheme of things, the rest of it's so inaccurate that it's kind of why did you bother making anything accurate at that point? But anyway, the movie, It's kind of a shame because I wouldn't have heard about this movie, I don't think, if not for Nicolas Cage. But then Nicolas Cage is also probably the worst thing about it. So it's like a catch-22 because I wouldn't have wanted to watch it. Or I mean, if I had heard about it, I would have wanted to watch it. But I probably wouldn't have heard anything if not for Nicolas Cage being involved. So it's kind of a shame that that's true, because if he wasn't in it, it would have been better. Same thing with FKA Twigs. I mean, neither of them are really doing a whole lot for most of the movie. Nicolas Cage kind of has a couple of different modes, and for the most part, in this one, he's in that underacting, kind of boring, stilted mode, which he gets into in more serious work that's not very good. And so he's just kind of boring and stilted until about halfway through, when we get a patented Nicolas Cage freak out, which just completely ruins any immersion you might have, because it's, Nicolas Cage freaking out. I will say, the kid that plays Jesus, I've seen him in a couple of other things. What is his name? Noah Jupe. He plays Jesus. I've liked him in pretty much everything I've seen him in so far. I haven't seen him in a lot, but I thought he was good in this. And honestly, for the first half of this movie, I really actually enjoyed it. It was creepy. It had some great imagery. I knew it wasn't very biblically accurate and didn't care for that, but it was still fun. The ideas were a lot of fun, because just thinking about being Joseph in that situation, where it's like, they even have a line at some point where he's saying, like, Mary's like, how can you not believe he's the son of God? You had the vision. He's like, that was so long ago, I don't even know if it was a dream or not. So there is some interesting philosophy and bordering on theology that they get into that I do find fascinating and could have been good. And like I said, for the first half of this movie, I actually really enjoyed it. I thought it was going to end up being a sneaky top 20 pick for me or something. But around the halfway point was when it really just hit a wall and then went straight down. Like, it got really silly plot-wise. They start using some CGI monster stuff. Like, there's a CGI snake that's just really silly and cheap looking. Like I said, the acting, Nicolas Cage goes over the top. It just really fell flat in the second half. And so I was thinking, for the most part, watching this movie, that, oh, well, it's got the bad rating because of the subject matter and the boycott and all. Makes sense. And then at a certain point, I was like, oh, actually, this is a fair rating. This movie does deserve the 4 or whatever it has on IMDb. I would give it a 4. It was pretty disappointing. It was a really good idea that they just didn't execute well, at least in the second half. Because there are, like I said, some really good ideas here, some really good imagery. I really liked some of the things that they say with it, and some of the cool, creepy things they do with it, but it kind of just stops making sense at a certain point. Like, the message of this movie, I think it's supposed to be a message of forgiveness, but that includes Satan or Satan in the forgiveness, and it's like, well, that's not biblically accurate. Satan's not supposed to be forgiven. So I don't quite buy that. But yeah, so overall, not for me. Unfortunately, because I really thought I was when it started. Next up, I'm going to be talking about Ella McCay, which, if you don't know what Ella McCay is, it had almost no marketing behind it. Just one crappy trailer rolling around. I wouldn't have seen this movie except for I happened to be working a job at the theater the same day, and so I wandered into the theater and watched most of this movie, which is why I didn't give it a full review day of, because I don't really think it's fair to review a movie if you don't watch the whole thing. But it was so bad I walked out, which is a shame, because it's got a great cast. It has Jamie Lee Curtis, it has Woody Harrelson, has some other people that you'll recognize in this movie, and it's just so honestly bad and painful to watch that, like I said, I walked out. I watched The Wall out in the AMC lobby for about half an hour, because I would rather do that than watch this movie. I found out at a certain point that this movie, it's listed on IMDb as a comedy. I didn't notice. I thought it was a drama, just a really poorly acted drama. Finding out that it was supposed to be funny made a lot of the acting choices make a lot more sense, because they were all overacting as if it were a comedy, but there was not one funny thing that happened in this movie, and the plot is terrible, and it's stupid. It is genuinely one of the worst movies I've ever had to watch. Not from a technical standpoint. I mean, I didn't notice any boom mics, or there weren't any sort of, like, editing issues. It was just fundamentally, the plot is just really contrived and stupid. The acting is terrible. The writing is terrible. all of that, all of the things that you would hope to be entertained by, you won't be, because this movie is just really stupid, and they try to make things seem happy-go-lucky. It's a political movie, and they try to spin things in a way that are optimistic or something, and it just doesn't work. It's trying to, from what I take it to be, a modern feminist version of Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, because it's like somebody really naive and in over their head taking on a political role that they have no right to, no business being a part of, and just everything kind of goes wrong. But hey, they're morally uncorruptible, like they're still a good person, and they came out with their head held high, and it's just like, no, they're stupid. And the fact that they won't be willing to work with people to reach a goal because they don't want to, go back on any of their standards. It's like trying to say that you need to stand up for what you believe in, which is true, but then they're saying any ounce of compromise is bad, which is not true. Especially in politics, you need to be able to compromise with people or you'll never get anything done. And so the messaging doesn't make sense. The comedy is there supposedly, but I couldn't find any. The acting is abysmal. It's extremely predictable. The acting honestly reminded me of like Disney Channel or Nickelodeon. It's really low quality, which is, like I said, shocking coming from some really good actors. There's other actors that I don't know at all, so it makes a little bit more sense that they'd be bad, but it's just all around one of the worst movies I've ever had to sit through, which is why I didn't sit all the way through it. So if I will give it a little asterisk saying, if somehow in that half hour I missed, it was great, awesome, everything somehow made sense, cool. I don't believe that's the case, and I just think it was a terrible movie. And yeah, that's why I didn't review it day of. Next up is Freakier Friday, which is, of course, the long-awaited, if anybody was waiting for it, sequel to Freaky Friday, which was starring Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan. This brings back both of them, along with a couple other familiar faces and some brand new faces. Because yes, now we are 25 years later, some amount of years later, and of course everything has to happen again, but different. And so if you had asked me, or just about anybody, to write a legacy sequel to Freaky Friday, I think everybody would have come up with one of two plot lines. Either Lindsay Lohan is a mother now, and she has to switch places with her daughter and learn the lesson that her mom learned, because sure, she learned to understand her mom, but that was 20 years ago and things change. Plot two we could have done is Jamie Lee Curtis, Lindsay Lohan, and Lindsay Lohan's new daughter all switch, so it's like kind of just everybody goes one spot to the right, so it's a three-way switch here. No, that's not, neither of those are the plot. If you haven't seen the trailer, even if you have, you might not have picked up entirely what the plot is. So Lindsay Lohan had a daughter with a husband she is no longer with. And you might be thinking, oh, she divorced what's-his-name from the first movie? Sorry, you probably didn't say what's his name if you remembered he existed. You probably had a crush on him 20 years ago. But no, whatever his name is not around and never was around, because they didn't get married. She married some other unnamed person who died years ago. Which, once again, if you asked anybody to write a plot... Anyway, I'll get back to that point. Now she meets the father of a foreign exchange student who is in Lindsay Lohan's class. Now, why is a foreign exchange student's father also in the country? I don't know, but sure. These two girls in high school hate each other for some reason, unspecified. I guess one is supposed to be the really popular girl, and the other one is, like, I guess she's supposed to be a tomboy because she wears beanies and she goes surfing. I didn't really pick up on tomboy vibes, but I guess that's what they were going for. Anyway, they hate each other. They get into a fight at school. They both have to get their parents to come into school to talk to the teacher. They instantly fall in love because reasons. And so now they're, a year later or whatever, going to get married. And of course, the two teen daughters want nothing to do with this marriage and want it to not happen. So, Are all 4 of them going to switch places? No, of course not. That would be silly. You need Jamie Lee Curtis involved. So Jamie Lee Curtis, Lindsay Lohan's daughter, and the soon-to-be stepdaughter all switch places, and the father's not involved at all. So it's just a really asinine writing, because that doesn't make any sense. Why would the grandma be involved in this? Why not the father? I know the obvious reason from the writing perspective is you want Jamie Lee Curtis to be involved, and you want a young person in Jamie Lee Curtis's body to make old people jokes so that people who are old will relate. Meanwhile, Lindsay Lohan is making later age millennial jokes because she's also out of touch, which is this whole movie. Half the jokes are about being out of touch, but they're written by people who clearly are out of touch, because the out of touchness doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So, for example, at one point, Lindsay Lohan's daughter wants Lindsay Lohan not to marry the foreign exchange student's dad, so thinks that she'll start flirting with the boyfriend from the first movie. So Lindsay Lohan has to act out a teen girl not knowing how to flirt with an adult man, which on paper I'll give you could be funny, but the lack of knowledge on how to flirt isn't a teen girl, not even a socially awkward teen girl. It is that of a complete idiot, because she doesn't understand the concept of winking, of biting her lip, of flipping her hair, nothing she can manage to do without looking like she's got some severe brain injury, which is the joke they end up going with. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense. Now, I will double back to my point about the original boyfriend. He's brought back into this plot anyway, so I ask you, why the hell was he not just the ex-husband? Why did we have to have the first husband, some unknown, unnamed character we've never met or even seen, die off screen just to have them then go after this guy anyway? I guess because then, as an audience, you may want them to actually end up together, but I think some talented writing could go into this to show, look, they really genuinely weren't good together. We learned that. He's happy now with his wife, and she's going to be happy now with her new husband, and that's a good thing. But it just doesn't make sense to add all these extra characters. That's what we did constantly. We added a new romantic interest, which, by the way, we could have just cut that out. Cut out the new romantic interest, cut out the new teen girl. Just make it about Lindsay Lohan and her daughter, and then throw in the grandma for good measure because Jamie Lee Curtis, and then have it about her getting back together with the ex from the first movie. All of this would have made so much more sense. But if you didn't want to do that, and you really wanted this whole new couple in, then okay, sure, but still, why a dead dad? We didn't need to do that. This whole movie is just overthinking every decision. Every joke is overthought to the point of not being funny anymore. Every plot point is overcomplicated. You would think it would be something really simple to write a Freaky Friday movie. All it is a body swap comedy that's really simple, really easy, really straightforward, and they couldn't do that for some reason. So, yeah, it's kind of just a waste of time. It's not, like, wholly offensive in any way, but it's completely forgettable because they didn't do anything that I think anybody would really want from this story, unless you're on the bandwagon of, ha ha ha, isn't it funny that the ex-boyfriend is secretly in love with Jamie Lee Curtis? He's got like a mommy thing this whole time. Okay, if you thought that was funny, cool. I just feel like the whole thing was pretty cheap. Literally the only scene in this whole movie I liked was the new father calls off the wedding. The new love interest calls off the wedding because he's prioritizing the happiness of his daughter over his own happiness. And he delivered that line, that little conversation really well. Props to him. The rest of this movie, pretty bad. It was nice, though. It was genuinely nice to see Lindsay Lohan looking happy and healthy again. I'm happy she had this opportunity to do something, but she and Jamie Lee Curtis should have gotten together and said, we need a better script if we're going to come back for this. Sorry. Up next is I'm Still Here, which, yes, technically is a 2025 movie if you're going by wide theatrical release. It was in the Oscars in early 2025, hinting at it being a 24 movie. It depends on how you do it. I do it by wide theatrical release, and so I missed it because I couldn't see it last year. I guess technically 2 years ago now. It wasn't released around me yet. So I didn't get to see it, and then I missed its theatrical release in 25 because I think it was really quick, and I was probably somewhere. I think I was at a film festival that weekend, and so I didn't get to see it, and I was like, well, it's kind of too little too late anyway. But then at the end of this year, when I was trying to wrap up making a nice round 100 movies for the year, I was like, I should watch this because it's supposed to be really good, so I should watch it. And it was very good. Spoiler. If you don't know what this movie is, it follows the story of a real-life woman who back in the 1970s was married to an ex-politician in a militaristic era of Brazil, where politics got pretty dicey for a while. The movie is based on a book by the son of this couple, and it is a very hard watch at times for sure, because you just know that there was certain atrocities happening at that time. And so it is brutal at times, but it is a very strong story too, a story that I'm very glad was told, because it's obviously very personal to the family involved, but it's very powerful to everybody, I think, to, be in that situation, but to remain strong. They specifically, I read in the trivia, cut out any scenes where you would see the mother crying, because the son who wrote the book made a point to say that he never saw his mom crying in front of the kids. I'm sure she did behind scenes, and they hint at that in this movie as well, but they never outright show it because she made sure to always remain strong for her family during this tough time. And it is brilliantly written, brilliantly acted. It is, like I said, a very brutal story, and I'm very glad to have heard it. I feel like it's one of those movies that you may never watch again, but you're glad that it was seen once, because it's going to change you a little bit. And yeah, I have very few complaints about it, but because I am a critic, I should talk about those complaints. I thought the movie was a little bit longer than it needed to be. We end up flashing forward twice. We flash forward to, I believe, the 90s, and then to almost modern day. I think it's like 95 or something, and then 2012 or something. I forget the exact years, but we flash forward a couple of times. And to me, I kind of thought both of those were a little unnecessary. I didn't feel like I gained anything from either of those scenes. But like I said, I'm kind of nitpicking here, especially when it's like a true story being told by somebody who lived it. It clearly mattered to them. They wouldn't have included it if they didn't think it mattered. So, my personal opinion, there was probably a couple of things I would have changed there, but regardless, it's a very powerful story, and I thought the acting was great. I know Fernanda Torres got a lot of praise for her role, her performance in this film, and she was very good. I hadn't heard anything about Selton Mello in this movie, and in fact, I just saw him, I believe, for the first time ever. It was the first time I recognized him in Anaconda a few weeks ago. So it's funny that I saw him in that first and was like, oh, I like this guy. Where did he come from? He's hilarious. And then I actually see an older movie by him where he's extremely serious, doing a very dramatic performance. Sure, there's some laughs in there, but he was phenomenal. And I was blown away by him. And granted, we see a lot more of the mother than of the father who he plays, but he was brilliant in the amount of time we got to see him. But yeah, I mean, of course, shout out to Fernanda Torres as well. She was awesome, and she deserved the praise she got. But I did want to give an extra shout out to Selton, because I didn't hear anybody talk about him. I didn't hear anybody say a word about him before or since this movie came out. So yeah, wanted to give him a thumbs up, because he was awesome. He was my favorite thing about the movie. And this movie, yeah, it's brutal at times, but I think it's worth a watch. Like I said, maybe not a movie you're going to keep going back to, because, man, movies like that are hard to watch sometimes, but I think they're worth watching at least once. I somehow forgot to record my thoughts on Lurker, even though I had it written right there on my list. So Lurker is a drama thriller, kind of, about this just normal guy working retail when an up-and-coming pop singer walks into his store and kind of just welcomes him right away into his entourage. He ends up becoming like this BTS videographer for the group and tags along with them before things kind of eventually devolve into some sort of hell. So this movie is interesting and almost works in a lot of ways. I thought the acting was good. It's starring the kid from Gran Turismo, Archie Medekwe, and I thought he was good in this movie. The other main character is Theodore Pillarin. He plays the actual main character. This was written and directed by Alex Russell, by the way, who's a fairly new filmmaker from what I take it. This is obviously low budget, and I don't want to, like, bully it for any of those points because the budget does show and stuff like that. But hey, I like low budget indie films a lot, and so I had semi-high expectations for this, especially when it started out, and I thought it would be pretty good. I think the trailer kind of misleads you. It's also listed as a crime drama music thriller on IMDb, and I just don't know that that's really what this movie is. In the trailer and in the marketing, they certainly are trying to hype up the thriller aspects of this movie, but to me, the movie itself barely delves into that aspect and is more just kind of a drama, because what ends up happening, and maybe if you're not interested in this movie, this is where I will give an additional spoiler warning. I know I've been getting into spoilers in most of these, but this one I actually will recommend maybe watching it, checking it out, or at least checking out the trailer first and seeing if it would be something interesting before you end up coming back. Actually, I just saw the trailer pop up here, and it looks like there's some spoilers in there. So maybe read the synopsis or listen to what I said about it. Check it out. It's on Mubi. It's also on Prime. Maybe check that out before listening to the spoilers, because this could be interesting to some people. I thought it almost worked. I didn't love it, didn't hate it, thought it almost worked, and wish maybe there was some rewrites, because this movie just didn't quite make sense to me, and I think there's a couple reasons. So basically what ends up happening is this kid gets welcomed into this group of, like I said, this up-and-coming pop star guy. He's like on the verge of blowing up. He's so close. He's really talented. And so this kid who had no idea who he was a minute ago now becomes kind of obsessed with him, because now he's got all new friends. He's got this popularity that comes with hanging out with popular people, and he's really, really excited about it. He feels like he's got purpose. He's getting money now. He's part of like this group, feels connected. And then he ends up bringing one of his other friends from his previous life, his normal life, to hang out with them, and immediately they all welcome him in too, and he immediately gets super jealous about that. And I could see that happening, but it felt like it was kind of out of left field. Like, it didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me, the motivation there. And this guy very quickly descends into completely, he goes from kind of relatable to absolutely batshit insane. Like, no longer relatable at all. I just couldn't get into that at all, because I was just like, why is he autistic? He seems to have no concept or grasp on how to talk or deal with humans or emotions. So either he's got some sort of spectrum thing going on, or he actually is just psychotic. And if that's the angle you wanted to go and make him this villain, which would have been a fun twisted on its head thing, because he's the main character. And so if you want to make it a thriller where he starts as the main character and then he ends up becoming the villain, that could have been fun, but you needed to hype up and give me more of a reason why he's scary in any way. Because, so one, if you wanted to make him the main character, the good guy and relatable and all of that, like I said, he just isn't anymore. So you kind of have to drop that idea. Or just rewrite him to make him more relatable, because he just isn't at all by the end of the film. But if you did want to go the route of making him scary, make this a thriller, horror film, which, like I said, it kind of felt like it was supposed to be, but it just wasn't, or maybe it was just marketed that way, then I think you need to make a few fundamental changes. First of all, the reason he becomes intimidating, if at all, is he forces his way back into the social group after he's kicked out. And he does that because he has blackmail. He has footage of this pop singer hanging out, maybe making out, maybe more, we don't get to see anything, with underage girls. So he's got this footage, and he uses that to blackmail the guy to let him back into the group and continue doing his job as a videographer and doing like a documentary thing that he wants to do. And so I'm immediately going, I don't know, I'm not intimidated, because I'm not on the pop singer side anymore, because he's a scumbag now. So you either have to make his blackmail less heinous, so that I'm not kind of on the other guy's side again, or you have to get rid of the blackmail and have a different reason, like he's forcing his way in through some other sort of threat. I don't know. I think another thing is then maybe make the pop singer a girl so that he's more physically intimidating and I fear for her, because at no point did I really fear for the singer, because I was like, he was taller, he was stronger looking. I was like, I feel like he could beat him up, which eventually they do beat him up, and I thought they were going to kill him. No, they end up working together again, which made no sense to me either. It was like they randomly had respect for each other again, which just didn't make sense to me. So, I don't know, I guess the point was like, we're all on the brink of insanity. It's all about just who wants it more. It's one of those like Whiplash kind of movies, but I think if it is trying to be Whiplash, which Whiplash is a cautionary tale, this didn't present as a cautionary tale. It almost presented it like it was ultimately a good thing. I don't know if it was trying to be or not, but that didn't work for me. This movie had a lot of promise that it never really fulfilled, and I think because it wasn't a scary thriller, if it was trying to be a thriller, and if it was a drama, the characters didn't make enough sense for me to want to be invested in anything that happened, because they were all kind of weird and nonsensical. Also, he's supposed to be this videographer, and maybe it's the characters being dumb, but the videos he takes are really bad looking. And they're all like, man, it's so cool, it's so artistic. And I'm like, no, it looks like dog shit. Speaking of movies that can be hard to watch at times, up next is Nuremberg, which is another true story, which, if you're unaware of Nuremberg or the implications of that name, it follows some Nazis being put on trial following World War II, because there was a push to put them on trial for their war crimes, because if you just quote-unquote assassinated them, it would create more Nazis and World War III would have happened, was the idea. This movie, however, though, technically it's a little bit more about right before the trial than the trial itself. We do get into the trial, but it mainly follows Rami Malek's character, who plays a real-life psychiatrist who is diagnosing, essentially interviewing all of these Nazis that they have before they go on trial, trying to kind of discover what makes an evil man evil, what makes them tick. So he's interviewing multiple Nazis, including the head Nazi left at that time. He was third in command before multiple other people died. Goering, who's played by Russell Crowe, and I thought he was very good in this movie. This movie also has Michael Shannon in it. It's a pretty big cast, and it's surprisingly a good cast for a movie so low budget. I was shocked how low the budget was. I expected it to be low budget because it looked low budget, but then I Googled it, and it was under 10 million. I believe it was something like 7.5. Got a little bit of discrepancy between different sources when I Googled it, but it was under 10, which shocked me based on the cast. I will say, it did look low budget, and it felt low budget. It's a very generic looking and feeling movie, and I know maybe some of that is World War II fatigue. We've gotten so many of those movies that it just doesn't feel new or interesting in any way for the most part. We kind of did a bunch of the war movies, and recently we've been doing the political thrillers. We kind of started that with like Darkest Hour, I feel like, and then of course we had Oppenheimer, and now we've got this, and we had a million others in between. So it's like, it's kind of, there's a little bit of fatigue there, at least for me. I feel like that's in general, but definitely for me. And so it was a little bit hard to get into at times because of that. But I would say that I really enjoyed elements of... Enjoying is a strong word, I'll get into that in a second. But I thought the first hour and a half of this movie was very well done in a lot of ways. Despite, like I said, feeling generic, it's certainly... The writer and director hasn't made a whole lot of movies. I think this was his second movie, and it shows. And then I didn't look up the cinematographer, but he wasn't good. It felt like a TV movie for what... That doesn't really mean as much as it used to. Now it's like a straight-to-streamer movie is kind of the thing you call it. But it felt like that. And so, despite the subject matter being interesting, I was finding myself a little bit bored just because visually it looked so boring. But anyway, the acting was, for the most part, very good, especially Russell Crowe. It was funny because he's playing this rather large Nazi character who is supposed to be... They made him fatter, by the way, than he is in real life. I assume partially because Russell Crowe just is that big, but he is a very elegant speaker. He's very intelligent sounding when he talks, and he's very just good with his words, you know? And all I could think while watching Russell Crowe was like, this is good, but like this role was meant for Orson Welles, and it's kind of a shame he never got to do that. But anyway, this movie shocked me because at a certain point they start showing in court some footage from concentration camps. And I had to pause the movie because I was overwhelmed by it. And I was like, there's no way this is fake. And I Googled it, and sure enough, and it was real. And I don't know how that gets put into a PG-13 movie. And maybe because it's historical and it's like people need to see this is the reasoning. I don't know. That was a tough watch for me. This is another one of those movies that, as much as I did enjoy aspects of it, I probably will never watch it again. That mainly being why. So I feel like trigger warning for some people, maybe, because that's just a tough thing to watch. Where you're like, that's not simulated torture and death. That's real torture and death that I am watching. And I can't believe I'm watching it because I didn't sign up for that. I thought I was watching a movie. Here's real death being shown. That's crazy to me. But anyway, aside from that, like I said, the first hour and a half I did think was good. Everything leading up to, spoiler, Rami Malek's character in real life, like I said, he's a psychiatrist named Kelly. He was supposed to get fired because his relationships with the Nazis was deemed inappropriate. And so he's let go. And in my research, that was kind of the last he was heard of involving this situation. Of course, though, it's a movie, it's Rami Malek, and you need a main character, so they made him more important than he actually was, and he kept coming back when he shouldn't have. And it moves to a trial, a political trial drama, courtroom drama, and the movie falls apart. It's extremely cheesy, as many courtroom dramas are, because whoever's written these courtroom dramas has either clearly never been in a courtroom or doesn't care, because it's always people shouting and leading witnesses and there's no order ever. It's just madness. And I just couldn't buy into any of it. And then on top of that, just knowing how fake the story had become at that point. Up until that point, it seems like it was fairly accurate, and I really did enjoy the philosophy, you know, that was being debated between two very intelligent people trying to outsmart each other. There's some aspects of that was very entertaining. But like I said, it kind of just falls apart in the latter half. Because it's a 2.5 hour movie, so even though the first hour and a half is good, there's still an hour left after that point that's not very good. Pretty bad and insulting. Like, I hate when, like, movies are supposed to be based on a true story and then they just do whatever they want. Kind of felt like they went that way a little bit there. Like, they added a whole extra scene with him, not him, Rami Malek, Michael Shannon plays the justice, and he goes to talk to the Pope, and that scene was completely fabricated as well. So there's just some stuff in there that I just, like, I didn't need any of this. It's making the movie cheesier, and I'm not enjoying that. But, like I said, the interactions between Russell Crowe and Rami Malek's character, they're good, and I think that's the main point and drive of this movie. I think that's part of also why I didn't like the last hour, because after he leaves, even though he stays there, which he shouldn't have. In fact, it's funny, a character asks him, "Why are you still here?" It's like, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. After that point, though, I feel like the movie loses the point, because the movie up until that is like a psychological, philosophical debate talking about, like, what is evil, how do we diagnose it, and can we fix it? That's supposedly what he wants to do. I don't know that his intentions were actually that noble, but there's some thought of, if you can understand evil, you can cure it or prevent it. And then this whole time, they're becoming closer and closer and more buddy friends. And then that's when you see this footage of the concentration camps, and it makes everything Russell Crowe said kind of fall flat. Because it's like, you said you didn't know anything, you said that you were innocent, you said all this and that, and it's not that bad, other guys. And it's like, I don't believe anything you say anymore. And so it was like this crushing moment of realization of, like, you can't always just diagnose people and fix them. Sometimes people are just evil. And sometimes, like, and that was refreshing to me, because with how many movies nowadays are always like, you know, understand the villains, they're not just villains. And it's like, sometimes you need a villain to just be a villain. And I think the case with like Nazism, And sure, yes, there are deep-seated psychological reasons for why people become evil, whether it's nature or nurture, you know, that's the two things. It's either genetics or how you're raised or a combination of both. But, like, I don't know that I need that for Nazis, you know? Even if that's true about Hitler, which it probably is, I don't need an excuse for him. And I guess you could say, like, well, if we understand people, we can help prevent it, and that's great. But I did think it was a really refreshing take to just be like, wow, you know, sometimes you think you know somebody and then you just realize that they're just straight evil and there's nothing you can do. And that was a really cool moment. And then there's another hour of this movie where he's put on, you know, on the stand, and I just, like, what are we doing now? I feel like we kind of missed the point here. And then they kind of shoehorn in the thing at the end about how Rami Malek's career falls apart and he kills himself, and it's like, also, I feel like we're kind of missing the point, you know? I feel like it should have been about evil, what evil looks like, and how to just be like, oh shit, we can't fix that other than with fire, you know? And I'm not, you know, I'm actually very vocal about being anti-death penalty. Like, I don't agree with that on a moral level, but I also at the same time know that not everybody can be rehabbed, you know? And maybe everybody can be prevented if we knew how to spot it. But anyway, not trying to get into a debate on that. I'm just saying this movie felt like it had a point and then just forgot about it and kept going for another hour. And that was disappointing to me because the first hour and a half, although not great, had some really good moments. Next up is another true story. We're on a bit of a run here. September 5 or 5th. They don't put a TH there, but September 5 feels like a weird thing to say, so September 5th, I guess. I don't know. Which is another movie that it was in contention for Oscars last year, but once again, it didn't get a wide release until this year for me, and so I didn't get to see it because I definitely was at a festival for that release. I know that, so I didn't get to see it when it came out, and I was interested in it, but then nobody really talked about it. I kind of forgot about it. There were so many movies I saw this year that it just kind of got lost in the shuffle, but it was one of the first movies I added to my list when I knew I needed to catch up on some movies because I was excited to see this story. If you don't know what this movie is about, it is, like I said, a true story based around the Summer Olympics in 1972, I believe it was, which took place in Germany when some terrorists took over the hotel in the Olympic Square that had Jews in it. So the Jewish athletes and coaches were kidnapped and held hostage by terrorists. And this was a very contentious time because, crazy to think about it, but in the 70s, World War II had just happened. You know, people that fought in that war were still fairly young. I mean, like 50s and 60s and stuff. So it's still fresh on people's minds. You know, if you were in kindergarten during that, you're in your 30s now. That's crazy because it just, to me, 70s and 40s feel so far apart, but they're not really. It would be like something happening now that was reminiscent to something that happened in the 90s. It feels really recent. So anyway, all that being said, this movie specifically, though, isn't about the event per se. It is about the news team working for ABC. Did we mention it's ABC? Covering it. And it's not ABC as a whole, it's specifically the sports group there for the Olympics doing it. And so this movie, kind of like, I guess, Civil War, you know, the movie from a couple years ago, where it's about the war photographers, this movie becomes a moral, philosophical debate on what is, like, appropriate for people in the news world to do. And I gotta say, I kind of hated that aspect of this movie. I would have much rather have seen a movie about the events. And I know that there was a movie made about that back in the day. Apparently it's not very accurate because there was some propaganda involved. I don't know. I haven't looked into that aspect. And then Spielberg had a movie about the fallout afterward, the aftermath, but wasn't really about this specific event. But anyway, this movie just feels like if you were making a movie about the guy who broke the news about the Hindenburg disaster or something. I don't even have a good comparison to make on, like, because, like, at what other point did people telling the news, like, lie? I guess I don't know. I'm sure there's plenty of examples that I'm not smart enough to know, but it's like, if you were going to show this I don't know. Maybe it's like a tragedy in of itself, and that's the point. Like, and once again, I've said this before, I don't need movies to be about good, likable characters. I don't need to have a clear-cut moral message or code in my movies. All of that is a lot easier to digest, but I mean, that's not what art is about, being easy to digest. I get that. But this movie is about scumbags. Like, everybody in this team, I came away from watching this movie going, wow, everybody at ABC is a scumbag. I hate all of them, and I never want to watch their news. Because, like, their priorities aren't getting the truth out, as much as they may say that. It's about having priority over the story. They want to break the story. They don't want to be the last ones to say anything. They want to be the first ones to say everything. So if they hear, and they end up doing this, where they hear a rumor through the grapevine that something happens, so then they break that as fact, and then everybody else does, and then they have to retract it a few minutes later, and it's devastating news because they said the hostages got away, and in reality the hostages died. That's a devastating news story to have to break after you just told everybody's parents, hey, your kids are alive, and then go, oh wait, no, we made that up, they're actually dead. Everybody died, all of them. And then their first thought is, oh no, our ratings, and oh no, we're gonna get in trouble. That shouldn't be your first thought. Your first thought should be, oh no, I'm a fucking piece of shit. And everybody involved with this was. Because even the people saying, no, don't break this, they're saying it because they don't want to be wrong, not because they're worried about affecting people negatively. They're worried about them losing their jobs for being wrong, if they're wrong. And so, yeah, everybody involved in this movie is a piece of shit. They're all scumbags. And I guess you could say that this movie is a lesson on, like, truth being more important. Maybe that's the point. And I don't want to say I hated this movie, because I didn't. I just hated all the characters, all the people involved. And if they were misrepresented by this movie, shame on the movie, I don't know. I can't speak for any person in reality that was in this true story, whether they were a scumbag or not. How they were represented in this movie made everybody a scumbag. And so that's just really a shame, because it's like, I would genuinely have preferred a movie about the actual events rather than the news people running around going, how do we get this story out first? NBC wants the thing. We can't give it to NBC. All right, well, NBC's taking it by force. All right, well, then give them the logo. And then, so they'll show it, but the ABC will be there, so they'll know it's from us. It's like, fuck off. You're all pieces of shit. But anyway, it's tough because, like, when you review a movie, you can't complain about what it isn't. You have to just talk about what it is. Because what it isn't is something else. You can't review something for what it's not. You have to review it for what it is. And what it is, it's a pretty good movie about some really shitty people. So it is a good movie. Objectively, it's well made. It's well acted. It's high intensity for the most part. You know, it kept me interested the whole time for the most part. But I was more interested in what was going on than, you know, with these people. You know, I don't know. I'm split on it because it's like, did this movie need to be made, I guess? Like, I don't care about the subject matter, I'll be honest. And that's just true. That's not me wishing it was something else. I just don't care about these people, and I didn't need to hear this story. But I guess there's a world where, you know, somebody could make this mistake again, and so this is a warning to people like, hey, put truth above all else. You know, put, you know, the betterment of man ahead of yourself. You know, let NBC get the footage. Let other people get the footage. We all want to know what's going on. Like, you see it in the trailer where they're showing live footage of the Germans' attempts to prevent the terrorists to the terrorists, because they're broadcasting live footage of what they're doing, telling the terrorists every move that they're about to make, and it's pathetic. And they're like, oh, we didn't think about that. Yeah, you were just thinking about ratings. It's pathetic. Everybody involved is a piece of shit. So, yeah, I can't say I disliked the movie for what it is, you know, because it's a well-made movie, but it's another one I'm never going to watch again. A lot of true stories I'm never going to watch again, because it just made me really angry. And maybe that's the point. Maybe you should be angry. It's a righteous anger. I'm like, look at how badly these people fucked everything up. But to me, that's, I don't know, maybe Maybe that's the optimist in me, is like, I just want a happy story, you know? Or if I'm going to watch a tragedy, I want to see the tragedy, not some idiots make the tragedy about themselves, I guess. I don't know. So, I have to give the movie a positive rating because it was well made. And does it need to be told? Is it a story that needs to be told? Isn't really a criticism, I guess. So I'll give it a positive rating. I guess I'll give it a 6. But I did not like this movie. Alright, next up is Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Fowl. Now, once again, this was a movie that it was released at the tail end of 24, but it didn't get a wide release until 25, at least in my neck of the woods. I think it got released in the UK earlier, but I'm in America, and we didn't get it, I don't think, until it was on Netflix, which was 25. So, I love this franchise. Wallace and Gromit is one of my favorite things. Watching it again, I hadn't watched Wallace and Gromit in years, and it felt like seeing an old friend again, and or like a grandparent or something, and it was comforting because of that. It's kind of like, you know, when a new Winnie the Pooh movie comes out or something. Even in versions of, like, classic things for me, like whether it's Winnie the Pooh, Wallace and Gromit, Scooby-Doo, The Muppets, you know, even versions like that aren't as good, for the most part, you still really get a kind of like a warm, fuzzy feeling watching it. There's certain versions that are pretty bad that don't create that sensation, but for the most part, I really just enjoy seeing, you know, this kind of nostalgic stuff, especially when it's told by people who clearly, like, love, you know, the original stuff. And that's what it felt like to me watching this. It wasn't the best Wallace and Gromit movie I've ever seen, but it was very enjoyable, and it was very reminiscent of so many, like, it brought back so many memories from watching it as a kid. And also, I don't know that I've really talked about that this much on this channel, but for me, nothing beats good claymation, like stop-motion animation. I love that. I love that so much. I think Wallace and Gromit or Chicken Run, something in that vein, the Aardman movies, but I mean, of course, Henry Selick's movies too, really just made me love stop motion, and that was one of the things that really got me into filmmaking as a kid. And so I just really enjoyed seeing the craftsmanship that went into this, like really good stop motion. Nothing beats it for me. And what shocked me about this movie was there was a little bit of commentary on technology and AI in there, and how it's kind of like cutting corners and making things easier but soulless. And I've really thought that was beautiful in, like, stop motion animation is one of the hardest things to do. Like, I mean, pencil drawn animation sure is something too. And I'm not saying that CGI animation is easy. I'm not saying that. But I've got to believe that, like, doing it with your hands that way is probably the hardest thing to do as far as animation goes. And there's something about, like, the Aardman way. I remember watching an interview with, like, the creator of Wallace and Gromit talking about it back in the day, where he deliberately leaves thumbprints in the clay when, like, shaping their facial expressions. And he was like, I know that there's a lot of sculpting tools and ways to avoid that and smooth out the skin and make it not look like that, but I like having that texture in there. I like knowing, like, seeing the little fingerprints of the artists on the art. And I was looking for that in this, and they had it. And I was like, that is such a beautiful example of what they're saying, of, like, there are easier and simpler and faster ways to do this stuff, and we're not going to do it. And that made me kind of, like, choke up a little bit. I was like, that's so beautiful. I love that. But all of that aside, talking about this movie specifically, it is enjoyable. Like I said, it's not the best Wallace and Gromit movie I've ever seen. Not that there have been a lot of them, but they did the shorts and stuff too. I mean, I think it's going to be hard to beat Curse of the Were-Rabbit. That movie is awesome. And then not just Wallace and Gromit, but Aardman in general. Like, Chicken Run's great too. And I wouldn't say that this was on the same par, like the same level as those two. Also, there's a new voice actor for Wallace. He's been doing the voice in video games and a couple of shorts or commercials for a long time at this point, but this was the first movie that I saw him in doing Wallace, and I thought he was fine, you know, and I thought that the spirit was kept alive, and I really enjoyed this movie because it felt like Wallace and Gromit. Like I was saying, sometimes remakes happen or reboots happen, and you're like, they missed the point, they missed the magic. You know, like there's certain reboots of like Scooby-Doo which is another one of my favorite things from my childhood, where it's like, this doesn't feel like Scooby-Doo anymore. And I'm not just talking about the Velma show. That's an easy one to, pick fun at. But like Scoob, that came out during COVID, didn't feel remotely like Scooby-Doo. It was terrible. It was awful. Hated that movie. And certain times it's like, it just feels like all the magic is gone when they try and reboot it. They just don't understand what made it good. But when you can capture that and it feels like there's genuine love in there for the original and for the fans, it's great. And so it's like, not every joke in this movie maybe worked, and the plot wasn't super original. It's just, the penguin guy again. He's back. And, I mean, I love seeing him, though. And that was part of it, was like, no, it's not a super complicated plot. It's because it's Wallace and Gromit. And they've got some really funny callbacks to things in there. Like, at one point, the bad guy has to sign on to Wallace's computer, and they do, like, this thing where it's like, are you a robot? Prove that you're human. Pick all the pictures that are cheese. And so he clicks cheese, 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 and then there's a picture of the moon. And he goes like, yes. And it's like, because that was the first one they did, was them going to the moon. And it's like, I just love that, and there's some really good jokes in there too that are original. It's not all callback humor. It's not all just pandering like that. Like, there was this really great sight gag where the final chase in this movie is on these like little river boats, and so they're going down this canal, and then the canal goes into a tunnel, emulating like what a train chase or a train scene would be in a movie, and then it comes out onto a bridge. It's a canal, but a bridge over a ravine. And at the bottom of the ravine, instead of there being a little stream, there's a train track. And I was like, that's hilarious. And it's a subtle little thing where it's like, look, it's flipped. And I love stuff like that. So, yeah, this movie felt like genuine. It felt like an honest homage to what came before, but still being new and fresh in its own way. And it was just a lot of fun. It had a lot of heart. So I enjoyed this movie. It was one of my favorite movies of the year, honestly. I think it was my favorite kids movie of the year. Which, I gave a lot of praise to Zootopia 2 earlier this year, saying that was the best kids movie of the year. This may have dethroned it. It's tough. I'll have to think about that. I've got my list coming out tomorrow. I'll have to think about that one, but I enjoyed it a lot. Once again, it's been out all year, so you've probably seen it already if you were interested, but in case you didn't know it was a thing or whatever, hadn't gotten around to it, forgot about it, check it out. It's definitely, it's not just for, like I said, old fans of the original. I'm sure you could get kids that have never even heard of it before into this movie and enjoy it, because it's still great. Last but not least, it's on the lesser end, is Waltzing with Brando. Now, if you don't know what Waltzing with Brando is, it's another true story. Look at that. A lot of true story movies. It's almost like I'm into true stories. I don't think I did that on purpose, but anyway, it follows the true story of an architect who is working with Marlon Brando to build this private resort on his own special island in the middle of the ocean. And it got a lot of publicity back when it was first coming out. Now, once again, this was a movie that it was pushing for the Oscars last year. It didn't get any nominations, but what they were pushing for was specifically Billy Zane as Marlon Brando. And all of the marketing surrounding this movie was pictures of him. Whether it was him on the beach or whether it was him in the Godfather setup, they were like, look at him. Doesn't he look exactly like Marlon Brando? And the resounding answer was, wow, yes he does. He looks great. And, I kept waiting for a trailer to drop, and one just never really did until finally I saw one not in the theater. I think I saw it on Twitter or something, and I went, oh, that's why all of the marketing has been just pictures, because the movie is garbage. And Billy Zane's impression of Brando is passable. I will give him credit, that's not like a caricature of Brando, because like he didn't do an over-the-top voice, you come to me on the gym. He didn't do that. But he also didn't really change his voice too much either. He definitely brought it down here. But like, this is about as much of an impression of him as he did. And it's like, so he didn't do enough either. I think he was so afraid of doing too much that he didn't do enough. And you see that in some biopics in recent years where they're like, we're going for the vague essence of the guy rather than doing an impression. Because if you do an impression, it can get cheesy quick. And they didn't want to do that. it just wasn't enough to me. It was like Billy Zane showed up to a costume party, a really convincing, like he would have won best costume at the Halloween party, but he didn't then do anything really to evoke Brando past that. Like, he looked great. I thought he looked awesome, but he didn't really make me think of Brando past his appearance, which it's like, it makes everything make sense that he didn't get, considered for the Oscars, because, like, when you play a real person, you get picked for the Oscars, even if you're bad. So you have to be pretty unremarkable to not get picked. And he didn't get picked, and I understand why now. As for the rest of the movie, it's terrible. Billy Zane was by far the best part, which, like I said, he was not very remarkable, unfortunately. The main character is not Brando, though. It's the architect, who's played by John Heder, who I enjoy John Heder in some performances. I'm a big fan of Napoleon Dynamite. I've enjoyed a good John Heder comedy here or there. John Heder, however, cannot act. At least not in dramatic performances. I've never seen him deliver a dramatic performance remotely good, I'll be honest. And this was no exception. He was very bad, and it wasn't entirely his fault. The writing and directing of this movie was on par with a Disney Channel movie, complete with John Heder constantly turning to self-narrate. He is the narrator of this movie because it's based on a book by the architect. The architect wrote a tell-all book, so they wanted a narration, and the narration is the character. But he's just trying to talk to the camera during various moments. And maybe that doesn't sound terrible, but let me tell you an example. At one point, they prank Marlon Brando by making him think that there's a ghost. Supposedly. He doesn't fall for it, but that's not important to this. He ends up running off. His intent is then to play a prank back on them. But as they're chasing him down the road, they see a person lying on the road that supposedly got hit by Brando's car and is dead. And they're all piling out of the car going, "Oh my God, he's dead." And John Heder is just like, "Yeah, and so that's what happened." And it's like, what the fuck is that? That's so bad. It's laughably bad. And so maybe I'm too harsh on John Heder because the writing and directing is terrible. Like, there was one moment in this whole movie that felt genuine, and I think it must have been an ad-lib, was there's a moment when, the kids on the island just come running into his bedroom early in the morning and wake him up. So then he, at breakfast, is like, "Why did that happen to this person?" She's like, "The children belong to everybody," yada, 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 give some weird reasoning. And then he turns around, there's a kid behind him, and goes, "Were you in my bed?" And just the way he delivered that, I was like, okay, so that line was funny, the only funny line in the movie, and the delivery of it felt natural. And I'm like, so it couldn't have been written, and it couldn't have been directed. It had to just be him going rogue, because that was the only good moment in this entire movie. It's such a nonsensical movie about a story that isn't interesting at all, and is filled with just eye candy and no actual substance. Like, they have to show him, Marlon Brando, it's not relevant to the plot at all, but here's him as the Godfather. Now here's him, doing Apocalypse Now. Now here is him doing Superman. Was any of this relevant to anything? No, but we just wanted to put Billy Zane in these outfits and make him be Brando. And so the whole movie just feels like a waste of time. It's not good. It's really poor. And feels like it's in bad taste, even though they're not taking shots at anybody. It just feels gross for some reason. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of any of it, other than that one line I mentioned. So, sorry to end on a negative note there, but those were the movies I caught up with over the past couple weeks. Not even. It was like 6 days, 5 days. Wow. I watched too many movies in a week. So yeah, like I said, my list is coming tomorrow. I am a little bit late because I got sick and I couldn't talk or breathe. And so I didn't want to sound like a gross sniveling fool on camera for an hour. So that's what I had to think about all these movies. I'll get my list out ASAP. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon.